Good afternoon and welcome to a workshop for the Brevard County Commission on the golf courses in Brevard County. We have a quorum, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. Commissioner Smith, are you with us by phone, sir?
Ready, willing, and able.
Okay, wonderful. We have a large group today, so if you're wanting to make any comments, you need to fill out a card in the back, please. And since we have a large group, I thought it would be appropriate today probably to start with a moment of silence. And then, Commissioner Tobias, would you mind leading the pledge today, sir, if you wouldn't mind? Thank you. So if you'd bow your heads for a few minutes. Thank you.
Please join me on the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That sounded very beautiful with a full room. I'm glad everybody knows the words. We're going to move into our workshop. Since we have a large room, and I know that everybody's working very hard to come to a consensus on what we should do, and it's real important that we get good information up here, so hopefully this board would make good decisions on the behalf of the county and you guys. So I'm going to really request today that as people are speaking, if you don't agree, that you wouldn't boo, and if you do agree, that you wouldn't applaud, so that we can work through this as well as we can to make good decisions. Good? Okay, so on that, staff, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair, Commissioners, everyone in the audience. We're going to provide you with a brief presentation just to remind the board and the audience of what has transpired over the last couple of months, and then we can go into the presentations from the two interested parties. As you all know, in July, Integrity notified the county that they will no longer operate their courses under contract to the county. So we had to go on in a very short-term notice, issue an RFP, and we awarded the maintenance and the operation of the golf courses to a company called International Golf Maintenance, which we all call IGM. They began on July 30th. At that time, then the board asked for a report back on status and what were to go forward on the golf courses. They set the date of October 24th, and so our next board meeting with the golf courses was October 24th. The board received what is officially called the Operations Review and Asset Assessment Report, what everyone informally calls the Kristovich Report after Kristovich and Associates, who put the report together. At that time, the board tabled a decision on where to move forward with the golf courses for another 60 days. So, there we go. So, and at the same time, on November 1st, we entered in an agreement with Kristovich and Associates. They were hired to help assist Parks and Rec in overseeing and evaluating and stabilizing the golf courses. The board has been receiving the monthly updates from Kristovich and Associates with Parks and Rec reviewing it before sending it on. And then at the end of that first 60 days, which is January 9th, staff brought forward a rather long and large presentation to the board that showed the different options on where to go with the golf courses. After some discussion, the board voted to provide an additional 60 days for the interested parties to work together towards bringing an agreement to you all as the Board of County Commissioners, and that's where we are today. Why all the meetings were going on, that you see the different staff efforts out there. We met with interested parties. You're getting two presentations today, but we met with several others that decided not to make a presentation to the board or move forward with any interest in the golf courses. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Parks and Rec, IGM, and Kristovich and Associates all worked together to improve the condition of the golf courses. And then we've all worked with Golf Brevard and Savannah's partnership and Savannah's HOA providing feedback. And I have to tell you, I mentioned it was staff from County Manager's Office, County Attorney's Office, Parks and Rec, Budget Office, Public Works, have worked with all the interested party, and the staff has been extremely responsive in all the questions, getting the information that all the parties needed to make the presentations to you today. We told you we would update you on the status of where we are in the enterprise fund. For the audience, the golf operations for Brevard County operates on an enterprise fund. The idea is that the golf courses have to operate and maintain on the revenues they generate. So we just finished up our 5th month of the fiscal year, which was through the end of February. And the ending balance on the end of February is $451,000 in the enterprise fund. And then we're projecting at the end of this fiscal year that we'll have $118,000 of balance in the enterprise fund. And I should say that $118,000 doesn't count any major capital repairs that might occur, and then, of course, of loss of any play due to weather or other circumstances. So that's our projection and where we're at. I believe before we were talking it's changed over the last couple of months. It's been anywhere from $170,000 down to $28,000. And, of course, going forward, that will change. But what we're projecting right now is the enterprise fund will have a positive balance throughout the entire fiscal year, assuming that we operate the courses through the end of the fiscal year. Just a reminder for the audience that hasn't seen one of the workshops before, the Kristovich and Associates report brought 4 recommendations, and they're right in front of you. Disposition of the golf courses, option 2 is continue to own, operate the courses. Option 3 is to own the golf courses and outsource the third-party maintenance. And then the 4th option was divest of the Savannah's course and then retain Spessard, Holland, and Habitat. And like I said, those are all from Kristovich. In January, the staff brought forward 3 more options, and then you have one from the Golf Advisory Board. And the other options was a public-private partnership for Savannah's, or establish a community development district for the Savannah's golf course. Option 7 was public-private partnership for Spessard, Holland, Habitat, and then the Golf Advisory Board voted to present a recommendation, and theirs was a public-private partnership for all 3 courses. And what you'll see from the 2 presentations is pretty much a combination of all these last 4 options there. And then lastly, depending on where you want to go with which presented in front of you, we have another option for you all to consider is a management disposition arrangement. This would be an incentive-based procurement in which investors would purchase/lease the courses, make an investment and improve the courses. Then at the appropriate time with county agreeing to it, they would sell the courses. And the idea there is the county would share in the proceeds. So you would have an investor would pay a certain cost for the course, make the improvement and sell it for a higher price. And depending on the arrangement and how the RFP works, the winning proposal, when they sold it, then the county would generate some revenue from that sale of it, of the process. This would take, like I said, this would take an RFP. We'd have to work together with purchasing. It would take some time, but there is the additional 9th option. And then we're staffed here. We got staff all around to answer any questions you have. We have 2 groups ready to make presentations to you. We have Golf Brevard, which wants to talk about Spessard, Holland, and the Habitat Golf Course, and then that will be followed up by the Savannah's Homeowners Association, or HOA, that will talk about the Savannah's Golf Course.
Thank you,
That's it.
sir. All right, go ahead and call Mr. Becker with Golf Brevard.
My name is Tom Becker. I live at 735 North Highway 81A. Fewer than 1/3 of the municipally owned golf courses in the nation cover their operating costs, much less the necessary capital maintenance expenses. So Brevard County is not alone in seeking a funding solution for its golf parks. I'm speaking today for Golf Brevard, an interdisciplinary group of individuals who love Brevard County, love golf, and have been successful in business. We want to partner with you and the Brevard golfing community to revive Spessard-Holland and the Habitat, bringing them into the next decade as self-supporting community assets. What I intend to say today can only be understood if we begin from the same context. After the January Commission meeting, Florida Today's article proclaimed Spessard-Holland and the Habitat as earning a profit. The golf community at the South Courses relaxed. What's the problem, they thought? Habitat and Spessard are making money, if that were only true. The reality is far different. Revenue less expenses in government accounting does not equal profit. Revenue can come from all kinds of places. A transfer from the enterprise fund into the Habitat's or Spessard-Holland's account is not income. It's a further investment of the owner, the county, into a golf course that's losing money. Regardless of how we keep the books, county golf operations is projected to lose $337,000 in the current fiscal year. That's the slide that you just saw that the county showed as far as the reduction in the Golf Enterprise Fund. A map doesn't do a whole lot to help unless you know where you are. And unless we can align our understanding of where we are today, I'm concerned we may find ourselves disagreeing on the direction we need to move collaboratively to find the solution that benefits Brevard's residents. That said, the county staff has now offered 9 options for you to consider. But really they boil down to only a few. Sell the courses or keep the courses. If you sell the courses, how will you maintain them until you sell them? Until they're owned by someone else. If you keep the courses, how will you maintain them as county assets rather than as liabilities? We believe the best opportunity for a positive outcome is the county entering into an operating agreement with a nonprofit corporation. The reason is that a nonprofit corporation offers most of the pros that you've looked at and fewer of the cons of any of your other choices. Whether you sell the courses or come into an agreement with Golf Brevard, the county will not subsidize golf course operations. If you sell them, however, you will have eliminated not only the risk of future cost, you've lost control of what they become. There are downside risks to selling a county asset. If Spessard-Holland fails as a golf course once it's sold, I'd hate to, the new owner may be unable to maintain the property if his golf course fails. I'd hate to see Spessard-Holland as a derelict property, dry and weed infested, an enduring testament to the decision that was made to sell. Whether you sell the business of golf at Habitat or enter into an agreement with Golf Brevard, the airport will continue to receive revenue from its lease with Parks and Recreation. And whether you sell the courses or enter into an agreement with Golf Brevard, those golf courses are going to continue to be in competition with Aquarina and the majors. However, one thing I do know is that Golf Brevard will operate in a manner that brings that builds the Brevard golf community. We can and will operate in a manner that builds synergy among the competing interests so we all benefit. That's what good and fair competition does in our economy. When we increase the pool of golfers in the immediate area, as we intend to do, the other golf courses will also benefit. If you retain the courses, the question becomes how you maintain them. There are really 2 choices: operate them yourselves or engage someone to do it for you. I began by saying fewer than 1/3 of the municipally owned courses in the nation cover their operating costs, much less their necessary capital maintenance expenses. Historically, the two South courses have placed themselves in the top third in the country, covering operating expenses and contributing at least some of its major maintenance issues. That's not happening now, however. If you decide to operate the courses yourself, the Golf Enterprise Fund would need monetary support from the general fund. That's according to your staff. You'll need to appropriate money to support continuing operations, including a significant outlay to pay for major maintenance needs that have been left unmet in an effort to maintain as long as possible sufficient balances to cover operating losses. The other option is to contract with someone to operate the courses for you. You have choices there also. You can select a for-profit company or a nonprofit company to do the job. After we leave here today, you'll be in executive session discussing what happened last time you selected a for-profit company to operate the courses. The results were not pretty, but we were very fortunate that Integrity's Golf's demise was swift. Like what often happens when a golf management company takes over a public course, they could have bled the county's courses dry for years, taking profits from funds any conscientious trustee would have reinvested into the asset. Leasing the courses sounds good. We can put the burden of restoring the courses on the lessee. They will do so for the profit they will earn back over time. In a recent Public Golf Advisory Board meeting, new chair George Gilletko asked Greg Plotner of IGM if he'd put in the investment up front in return for a 10-year lease. The answer was no. It would take a lot longer than that. Consider the numbers. Would you do it? What kind of profit would you have to make if you invested several $1 million up front to improve the courses? And in a business that shows declining numbers, like golf has shown in the past decade, the numbers simply do not work for a profit company in the present golf environment. Those who think they do are not being realistic. Most of you have said at one time or another that the county shouldn't be in the golf course business. We agree, and we'd like to work cooperatively with the county in partnership so we can retain our golf parks. There is no option before you that's without risk. We can provide you with one that has the best opportunity for success, however. Golf Brevard will exist as a nonprofit entity. Since no profits will be required to justify a return on investment, all revenues will be reinvested in operating and maintaining the county's assets. In addition, as a nonprofit entity, we can and will access charitable contributions from those whose heart is in public golf in Brevard County. We are part of the Brevard community of golfers. Our most important responsibility is to remain connected to our stakeholders, and that's what our board of directors will do. Golf Brevard projects your operating losses this fiscal year for the two South County courses to be approximately $150,000. It's about 148 on the board there. We anticipate critical maintenance requirements to be in excess of $200,000, as a pumping station at Spessard Holland needs replacement now. In addition, you have soft costs of management and monitoring of slightly more than $75,000. That's costs for parks and recreation staff that are not allocated to the golf courses. Those parks and recreation resources can be diverted to other needs if Golf Brevard is selected. We've presented you with a business plan that is realistic and affordable. We're asking nothing from you that we do not intend to repay from future revenues. What we're asking for is a startup fund, startup transition fund, that's less than the county's one-year losses in running the courses. And second, a line of credit that will do two things: provide collateral for equipment leases and a fallback fund in case of emergency. Our intent is not to draw upon the line of credit, but to hold it in reserve. The amount of the transition fund depends on the inception month of our agreement. An October inception would be followed by 2 months of negative cash flows, as well as seasonal storm risk. A January inception would be followed by multiple cash flow positive months. Thus, the transition fund need not be as large. We're open not only to either month, but whatever time frame the county would desire, but understanding that the transition fund needs to cover whatever negative cash flow months may be occurring immediately thereafter. There are capital needs requirements at both courses. Some of them will come due in the next few months, as to defer them further will negatively impact golf operations. As long as the county funds its obligations to meet critical needs between now and an agreed-upon transition date, Golf Brevard will assume the continuing risk of capital maintenance. You have far more important responsibilities than our golf courses, and I'm sorry that each of you had to spend the amount of time you have in understanding the issues and making this decision. Unlike county government, a nonprofit board will have a single-minded focus on hiring and diligently overseeing a highly skilled manager who knows how to run the courses like a business and achieve success in a difficult environment. A nonprofit board can draw on the many county residents, 20% of all households in the county, who love golf and are willing to pitch in to help keep their courses open and affordable. We golfers are a shrinking subset of the Brevard community, and we'll hang together to maintain the sport we love. Profits will not be taken off the top by our management company, but reinvested in the courses, a particularly pressing issue in Brevard where maintenance has been deferred for years. We plan to pay back to you what you advanced to us at the beginning. Should we fail, your cost will be no more than this year's losses. Should we succeed, you'll achieve your end goal of no additional county subsidy to the golf course properties you will retain as public assets. No matter when we assume operations, we'll need to earn a minimum of $110,000 above initial transition fund to reach a point where we have insulated ourselves from future risk and can begin to repay the county. So if we begin January 1, the same $110,000 principal applies, and we begin to repayment when cash exceeds $360,000 at year end. We've offered you specific, measurable criteria to gauge our success. The first 4 measurables that you see here are financial, reversing trends toward fewer rounds and decreased revenue per round. The other measurable relates specifically to our mission statement, the other measurables that are there, and that's course condition and affordability and courses that are aesthetically pleasing. Monitoring our performance will not require significant government resources. We're suggesting very specific, periodic, verifiable reporting requirements. Our books will be open to you at any time. If you find we're not achieving the benchmarks we've established, pull the plug. You'll get back golf properties that are better maintained and more readily marketable for whatever purpose you may have for them in the future. My background is lending. Early on, I was taught there were 3 C's to consider when I made a loan to someone: character, capacity, and collateral. Character was first. What is the reputation of the person to whom I'm making a loan? because without character, nothing else really matters. Golf Brevard's steering committee happened when you decided to give the community time to produce a solution through a public-private partnership. The committee grew in numbers and acumen as local residents who love golf and were successful in their business careers offered their insight and good judgment. Each one of them, along with the hundreds of golfers who have shown up today to show they care, is a reason to say yes to Golf Brevard. We would appreciate your vote directing staff to prepare a 3-year operating agreement between the county and Golf Brevard for the 2 South County courses, an agreement you'll be able to approve in the near future. Thank you for your time, your attention. We recognize that this is not a simple decision, and I and other members of the Golf Brevard Steering Committee are ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Commissioners, do you have any questions for? Okay, thank you, sir, and I know you'll be here for the duration with us.
Yes,
Oh,
we
I'm
will.
sorry. Oh, Commissioner Tobias twice. Go ahead.
Mr. Becker, the first couple questions are to you, sir. And I'm sorry, I must not have been given a copy of the preliminary business plan for Golf Brevard. The one that you were in my office a couple days ago is quite a bit different than the one that is sitting in front of me. So I do want to address a couple of the issues that are here, as well as ones that have been taken off. I think you've made some positive steps.
Thank you.
To getting there. First one that I notice is the legal aspect of it. On the initial one, you asked for the county to provide legal services. Have you retained outside counsel, or how will you be handling that? That was JI or JG, I believe.
Our only intent regarding legal services was the reason we took that off, Commissioner, was that our original intent was that was there to protect the county, not to insulate us from legal cost. We felt that it was important that when we entered contracts, that since the county retains the ownership to the land, we did not want to have any continuing obligation to the county. And we felt that if the county at least reviewed contracts we entered into, then they could make sure the county was protected from that. So that's why we had it in the first place. We took it out because every time we left something in there that was a bit fuzzy, people saw a black hole, and we didn't want that to be the case.
Thank you. You mentioned the 3 C's of lending, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Especially as a mortgage broker, you probably understand this far better than what I do. My question would be, with the new one, you have a $200,000 line of credit.
Correct.
What is the collateral on that $200,000 line of credit?
That's a line of credit, as I said, that we intend to use for
Again, sorry, not the
collateral.
use,
Okay.
but what is the collateral? You mentioned collateral was very important.
That's right. There are 3 C's to lending when I'm lending to a third party. In this case, we are a partnership. That is a partnership between you as the county and us as Golf Brevard. When you are in a partnership, that creates a somewhat different situation, Commissioner. When in this situation, we believe that the character and the performance, the previous performance of the people who were involved in this are your key to whether this is a good investment.
Is my understanding there is no collateral?
There is no collateral other than the
Thank you.
performance of the golf
Would
courses.
you, as a mortgage broker, ever offer a loan or originate a loan if there was no collateral?
As a mortgage broker, no. But that's not necessarily true of a commercial lender. And that's the type of loan that we are in here. With a commercial lender, character is the no pun, characteristic
I
that
appreciate
is the one that is most looked at, and
I
that's what
appreciate
we're
it.
looking at here.
A second question here. Again, as a mortgage broker, I'm sure you're well aware of this. There's no interest rate listed here. What interest rate would you be looking for in this non-collateralized loan?
Are you talking about the transition fund, or are you talking about the line of credit?
I am going with B, a $200,000 line of credit to serve for lease agreements covering expected expenses such as storm damage. So we've established there's zero collateral there. The question is, what would the interest rate that you're looking for on that loan be?
I understand that there is a proposal that will be coming from the Savannahs where there is a line of credit that's issued there, and it's considered at 4%. That is a line of credit that would be used, that would be a line of credit from the county for the Savannahs to spend on improving what would then be their property. In this situation,
Thank you. All I was looking for is a percentage.
Okay.
Thank you. I got it.
in this situation, we would be improving the county's property. So what we would suggest is that that be something that we consider as part of the operating agreement.
Okay. So sorry. Is that 4% or 0%?
That's something that we would look at in the operating agreement that's developed with the county.
Okay, so you're not giving me a percentage. Okay.
Correct.
Another, as I'm sure you're aware of, as a mortgage broker, you probably looked at the term of the loan. Mm-hmm. My question is, there's no mention of a term of a loan. What term are you looking for that $200,000 unsecured loan? That's
At this point, that is open. Again, we can come back and look at that as part of the operating agreement. As soon as we have earned to that level of $500,000 in liquid reserves, where we feel that risk has been basically ameliorated, then we would no longer need that $200,000 line of credit.
Help me one time, because I didn't hear any months or years. So you don't know how long that term will be?
If you have a better crystal ball than we do as far as how soon it will take to be able to move this to that level, then we'd be able to place a term on it. In our business plan, we expect to be able to move to that position somewhere in the third year. And so if our business plan which is a plan, ends up being reality, then we would be able to terminate that in probably about 2.5 years.
Thank you. Some questions. You mentioned previously, and you certainly mentioned in my office, you were using the Baltimore Municipal Golf Corporation as a model.
Correct.
That is correct? Mm-hmm. You've analyzed it from the business perspective and found it to be, in your idea, something successful that could work in Brevard County. Is that a fair assessment?
It not only succeeded in Baltimore for 35 years, but returned significant assets back to the city. And one of our steering committee members lived and worked there as a reporter for the Baltimore Sun for 27 years and saw it work and work well. So yes.
Super. Are you familiar with the Request for Solutions Baltimore issued in 2016?
Yes, I am.
And on page 5, it says, the city is looking to explore other options for the management and programming of these courses. Mm-hmm. If the Baltimore Management Group was so successful, can you explain to me why the city would be looking for other management options?
According to John Ladd, who is the PGA professional who heads the Baltimore Municipal Golf Corporation, the Request for Solutions was requested by the nonprofit corporation. It was requested by the nonprofit corporation because it was looking for new ways to be able, or as he put it, have we missed something along the way? Because we want that kind of input. At that, as one of the solutions that came in was from the Casper organization. The Casper organization offered the city $2 million if the city would also put in $2 million. The city did not accept that proposal. And the reason the city did not accept the proposal is that there was an understanding that if the Casper organization came in, the focus would be on those courses or that course that is the primary generator of income for the city. And other courses that were not profitable would be neglected.
Thank you. So it was I think I'm following. Have the rounds played by the Brevard group been trending upwards or downwards?
The Brevard group or the Baltimore group?
Sorry, the Baltimore. Both begin with B. I apologize. The Baltimore group.
They've been trending downwards.
Do you know how much?
I know they have been substantial. I did not look at the percentages of them, but they have been substantial.
Okay.
Is there a follow-up on that?
There are a few. I take this very seriously.
I do too.
And anytime that someone comes up and asks for a loan and doesn't have all the details, I'm sorry. I look at these as taxpayer money, so I appreciate you sticking with it and all the time that you've put in it.
Thank you.
Does the Baltimore course face the same deferred maintenance issues as that Spessard and Habitat?
They face some of them. As revenues have fallen throughout the golf industry, then so have they fallen in Baltimore. However, there are specific drivers for that in Baltimore that are very different from what we have here in Brevard County. The city of Baltimore, for example, has lost 25% of its population. When we look at that comparison and what we're experiencing here in Brevard County, we're looking at very different environments. So it would be virtually incredible to think that Baltimore would not lose a significant percentage of its golfing rounds. In addition, the city of Baltimore has taken back from its golf corporation approximately $10 million over the years. If those funds had been left by the city to be there for tough times as well as just good times, then the Baltimore Municipal Golf Corporation would have had the money now to be able to ride this out and take care of its issues.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I looked at the 990s, which I'm sure you did, of the Baltimore Management Group. Did you look at the 990s?
I did not look at the 990s, sir.
I looked more recent. Obviously, there's been a trend down that we all agree upon. The most recent one published was in 2015.
Okay.
And I have copies of all these for not only you, but the rest of members up here. The organization, the the Baltimore group, lost $362,607. They reverted back, as you mentioned, $200,000 to the city. Again, this is according to the document that you looked at, the request for solutions in 2016. So the organization still lost $162,607. Is that all accountable to the loss of population in Baltimore and has nothing to do with management or trends in golf?
I would say that if Brevard lost 25% of its population, that the issues that you would face as a commission when it came to your financial matters would be probably substantially more on a percentage basis than Baltimore has done. The city of Baltimore is a model. The nonprofit corporation is a model. One of the things that we believe we will be able to have help from is the USGA and perhaps the PGA of America as well. Because what we will be doing is establishing a new precedent for this model to be able to work in the present golf environment. The basics of it make so much sense because it puts every dollar back into the courses themselves rather than having to pay a profit to somebody else who will do it. And if this model can't work, then golf can't work.
Thank you. And just two more here. According to the Kristovich report, which I'm sure you saw, page 52, he outlines $1.1 million to pay for capital improvements and major repairs for Spessard, Holland, and Habitat. If you take the full $390,000, as well as the $200,000 line of credit, which you hope not to tap into, and I understand there could potentially be some losses in there, but let's pretend there will be no losses. So you would have a total of $590,000. Where are you going to make up that itemized list of almost a little more than $550,000 of deferred maintenance that the report has pointed out?
The deferred maintenance has been deferred by the county for a long time. And there are a lot of things that are just held together over there with duct tape and are going to have to be addressed. The way we've looked at this, however, is that there are certain things that need to be addressed on a short-term basis, or they will impact golf operations. But they don't all need to be addressed at once. In our operating budget that we've set out in the financial plan that you have, that 3-year financial plan, there is $100,000 each year for those kinds of major capital maintenance items. We think we can take care of that over time, but only hitting the ones initially that would impact negatively golf operations. The other things are things that we can continue to put Band-Aids on until the funds are there to deal with them.
So to be clear, you expect to ameliorate $300,000 of that $1.1 million of deferred maintenance?
As you so eloquently said when we were looking at the long list that was there for the Savannahs, you showed how the Savannahs partnership had really reduced substantially the amount of money that was going to be necessary to be able to handle the capital maintenance needs that they had there. We can do that far less expensively, we believe, than the county would. And so that 1.1 may very well be substantially less than that. It may be more. There may be things between now and when we end up taking over operations of the courses, that things come up that you're going to have to fix, and that'll come off the list. One of them, most probably, is the pumping station at Spessard, Holland, which needs to be taken care of right now. And that's a big piece.
Thanks. And I know I had one more, but there's a follow-up to that answer.
Okay.
You said that some of these are going to come up, and your words, you're going to have to fix. I assume when you say you mean Brevard County.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to revert back to your business plan here. You asked for a startup cost, a $200,000 line of credit, and fulfillment of mutually agreed performance criteria, all that good stuff. Where will, assuming that you've used up that $390,000 startup cost and the $200,000 line of credit, which aren't enough to deal with the issues that have been outlined in the Kristovich report, and something does come up, like the pumping station, which I'm not doubting that we have put that off for years and years. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I've been out there. I've seen a number of pumping stations and a number of them in bad shape. So I could be getting confused, but I'm very certain you're correct. But my question would be, how would this work out if the $390,000 was used and the $200,000 was used? Because that's all that's listed on this piece of paper. Where would that $80,000 come from to cover that expense?
Where would, what, $80,000 come from? Oh,
The pumping station.
that comes from the $100,000 we've got already in our budget to be able to handle those types of major maintenance issues. It would make it less likely that we would be able to deal with other things that we would like to do. But we will be able to cover the major maintenance situations. The only area that I could see that would blow it apart would be a major storm that really decimated the place.
Thank you. And here's the last one, and this is really the 800-pound gorilla.
Oh boy, the last one, huh?
Again, I know absolutely nothing about golf, so I have to take at face value the Kristovich report.
Okay.
Spessard Holland is expected to lose $612,000 in the next 3 years. Habitat is expected to lose $300,000. This is taking away all of those extra deferred maintenance costs. This is just revenue minus expenses. I want to know how, after this $390,000 and after this $200,000, you plan to cover that $900,000 deficit.
What we have seen to date from the county since the Kristovich report is an absolute and total departure from what that report outlined. The county is not operating according to that budget. It's putting figures back in to provide reports based upon that budget and shows the deviation from it. We don't expect to be operating for Mr. Kristovich's budget. What we do intend to do is take concrete steps toward how we will build community around those two courses. The people who are here today are part of that community, and they're here because they care. We believe that we're going to be able to not only increase revenues from by round, but that we will also be able to go back to the community at large for contributions to what we're doing. It'll be charitable contributions because we're a 501c3. We don't know how much that's going to be. It's not part of our initial plan. But when we start looking at this long term, we believe that's going to be there from people who care.
So just to summarize, you believe that your Golf Brevard organization are not only going to buck the national trends, but you believe they will vastly outperform the very courses that you are modeling your plan off. Is
Yes.
that fair?
That is fair. Okay. When I have one follow-up. One of the people on our steering committee is Frank Vega. Frank Vega was the first publisher here of Florida Today. He was the person who was a lead person in developing the contributions that were necessary for Brevard Zoo and for bringing together a workforce of 16,000 people to build it. Frank left here and went to Detroit Free Press, was the publisher there, and then moved from there to San Francisco. The San Francisco Chronicle was losing double-digit millions of dollars per month. It took him 7 years, but when he left, it was earning double-digit $1 million per month. Now, we can look at what's happening in the golf industry. We can say numbers are going down. You can see what's happening in the newspaper industry, where numbers were going down. He bucked that, and he can buck it here as part of this group. We're excited to have him part of Golf Brevard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to, since you brought up one of the members, I was just going over the bios here. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Vega sounds very impressive. And you said he was in the newspaper industry, right? And
Correct.
he went to San Francisco and was very successful in the newspaper industry. I'm just looking over here, and I'm sorry, I'm just seeing this for the first time. Of your steering committee, how many folks are in the golf industry of managing municipal golf courses?
The board of directors is not, the board of directors of Golf Brevard is not to be the manager of the golf course. The primary responsibility of a board of directors is to connect with the golfing community and make sure that the values of the golfing community are reflected in what we do as an entity. That's our, and the other is making sure that the manager of our golf courses is staying within the parameters that we state for him. We need to provide that through controls in a very similar manner as we've asked you to control what we do as Golf Brevard.
Does that mean zero?
We have one person, we have a person who was president of a golf course in San Francisco, Steve Proctor, and that's a close one. Mr. Vega has been very closely aligned with golf. We have a golf course manager here in the county of a private golf course who has agreed to be an advisor to the committee and even help us as we're interviewing a person for the director of golf position.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. We're going to move to Mr. Barfield in just a second, but first I want to mention we have like 25 seats up front here that are open. If you guys want to take a seat. We also opened up overflow seating in the Atlantic room if you'd like to also get a little more comfortable. We're going to be here a while, I can tell. Commissioner Barfield.
Thank you all for being here.
We're going to allow that one time, but really, we've got to move through this, you guys, or you're going to be here tomorrow morning with us and expect breakfast. So if we could really hold applause and the booing and everything, it gets a little distractive, and let's really get some work done. Commissioner Barfield.
Yeah, I just have hopefully one question, a lot less than his, but on the line of credit, you're talking about $200,000. Now, I know how a line of credit is for me if I have a line on my house or whatever. So if you have a line of credit for $200,000 and you don't use it, then there's $200,000 that stays there. Is that correct? So it won't be it's a reserve. You could just call it a reserve that's there. So I just want to make sure we clarify that. And the county will be putting that up?
The county, it would be available to us to draw from the county if necessary.
Okay. All right. That's all I got.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith, did you have any comments, sir?
No, I find it very interesting, and I'm just kind of winding my way through this. I've had a line of credit myself when I opened my business, and it is usual in the commercial industry to get that, and that's why it's hard for people to start businesses, because you don't have any money, but you've got this great idea, and you've got to sell it to some lender in order for them to give you that line of credit. And so I'm weighing these things. So, yeah, it's very interesting, the prospects of what they're proposing.
Thank you, sir. And we're getting ready to move to the Savannah's presentations, but I just want to make a comment here for the commissioners up here, and thank you for all y'all's information. My thought is either I'm going to be for fixing these two up and selling them, or work this plan and make it work. I'm not ready, just so you know, for these two golf courses to come to a decision today. I don't know if the rest of the commissioners are. If that be so, I'm going to have to catch up real quick. But I'm hoping if we're going to work this plan that you'll spend the due diligent time that the Savannah's course did and set up with the staff. They worked very hard, and we might have some kind of solution today. I'm not sure where we're going to go with it, but I would hope that would be your next step, is that you would get busy with the staff and we see if we get something that's workable as they communicate with us, sir.
I believe the only thing that needs to happen with staff at this time is a further review of the operating agreement that we put together and provided to staff, and to be able to just make sure that that meets the county's needs as well.
Thank you, sir. So just in all fairness, so that you know, you're going to be my next project. working towards the future. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And on that, we will bring up the Savannah's HOA presentation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Sonia Bossinger as attorney for the Savannah's Homeowners Association. We've been here a couple times now. As you said, Ms. Pritchard, the Savannah's has really worked together with county staff, the county manager, with the county attorneys, and tried to come up with a simple solution so that we can all walk away from this as happy as possible to try to have this end amicably for the county and end amicably for the homeowners within the Savannahs. We also listened. A lot of what you all had said to us at previous meetings, Commissioner Smith, it was nice to see you last evening. We took what he had to say to heart and what all of you have been saying. We wanted to show that the Homeowners Association and the owners within the Homeowners Association were willing to put skin in the game. And that's where we're at today. And I know one of the contentious things that's occurred with the Savannahs is this resounding objection to the fact that the Homeowners Association's annual fees have only been $150. I know that's been a problem and an uphill battle for us to convince you why it's been that amount. And doing Homeowners Association law and representing over 150 communities in this county alone, I will tell you, homeowners associations can only pass budgets to pay for and charge its constituents, its owners, for the amounts that it is allowed to charge pursuant to its governing documents for land, common area that the association owns. So until the association owns this golf course property, it was not even able to pass assessments to start saving for this golf course property. We have not been in that position. We have worked with our homeowners. We had a meeting on March 2nd, and we sent out notice and we collected proxies, the ballots, so that the homeowners have a resounding approval supporting the association, because we are also bound by our governing documents that say that the board alone cannot take out a loan. So we needed homeowner approval. And I'm proud to say that out of the 287 homes within the Savannah's Homeowners Association, on quick notice and sending out this information to the community, we have over 221 yeses. And our deadline isn't even until next week. So we have over 77% approval of the homeowners within the Savannahs that are willing to back up the association and work out this agreement with the county so that we can have the funds to bridge us over so that the county can revert this golf course over to the association, because we understand and we listened, and that is the county's end goal. So with that in mind, I had sent over a letter of intent of what we're looking to do. With the association, we need some time to build up our coffers. We also, not only to build up those coffers, but as you all know, this golf course has been operating at a deficit of about $15,000 a month that the county has been paying for. And we need some availability to be able to run this golf course so that these homeowners, who many of which are on a fixed income, can actually afford to do so. We already have it in the works to start passing increased assessments because we know this is coming. And on top of that, what this does is it gives the county a date certain, and that date certain is very soon. So that $15,000 a month deficit comes to about $180,000, probably a bit more than that, that this county or this golf course has been bleeding each year. So we need to have that level of money available to the association for a short-term period so we can turn this golf course around. As you all know, the Savannah's golf course has not had a working concession area. It did not have the permits, and I know that that's been worked on, but we believe with the permitting process coming to closure soon, we're hopeful that with the concession working, the restaurant having the money coming in there, we're going to have an increase in tournaments that are coming to the golf course, because we haven't had that to date because of the fact that there is no clubhouse facilities. We also have the influx of jobs in the north part of the county. As some of you may know, North Merritt Island actually has a higher median income of over $15,000 per year, more than the rest of the income within Brevard County. As well as those jobs coming in are high-paying jobs in the north part of the county, and the Savannah's Golf Course is the only golf course on Merritt Island. So having this golf course stay open to the public is what the association members want. But at the same time, this is a public golf course. There are 287 homes within the Savannahs, and we are averaging over 20,000 rounds of play a month. So obviously, just on those proportions, it's easy to tell that it's not the homeowners that are just playing this course. This is the public. This is Brevard County. These are guests of the county that are coming in to play in this golf course. So what we're looking for is bridge money to get us through. On top of that, the level of maintenance that was required from this original agreement required that the golf course be maintained to a certain level. And I know we've discussed this, but the association believes that the level that it's been maintained, there's a lot of deferred maintenance that should have been done to this golf course that now needs to be repaired. But we looked at those numbers, and we looked at them practically and realistically. We actually used the county's numbers. The county had obtained a report from the National Golf Foundation, and there was $834,000 of deferred maintenance that needed to be done that the National Golf Foundation came up with. The county and Kristovich and Associates came up with a figure of $1,770,000 worth of maintenance work that needed to be done. Combining those figures with the amounts that needed to be carried over between Kristovich and Associates report, the National Golf Foundation, and the county, we were looking at $1.86 million. That's a lot, and we understand that the county wants to get out of it. But what I did is we sat down with the board of directors and we said, let's be practical here. We need the county to bring this golf course up to the level that it should be at, and it should have been maintained before it's turned over to the association. However, some of these items that we'd like to see done, we don't believe actually should be county responsibility because it's making the golf course not from the baseline, but baseline and up, so making it better. For example, there are mosquitoes at the Savannah's golf course. Putting a screened enclosure around that patio out back behind the clubhouse, that's not something we're looking for the county to pay for. We are looking for the county to bring the golf course level up to the deferred maintenance that it should have been at. So we're looking at that figure of between what we're estimating between $600,000 and $800,000 plus the amount of money that the Savannah's golf course is bleeding. So what we're asking for from the county is a payment of $320,000 at the time of reversion. 12 months later, another payment of $320,000, and 12 months after that, another payment of $320,000. From our discussions with the county manager, and I'll let him answer those questions because I'm sure they'll come up, Mr. Tobias, I'm sure that you'll bring them up, that waste management, I believe there's a workaround for those funds so that the county has that availability to pay to the Savannahs. But the beautiful part is the golf course would have already been reverted. It would have be owned by the homeowners association. So let's talk about this some more. What we're also seeking is a $1.2 million line of credit. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow. However, we are looking to put a surety bond on that golf course property with the stipulation that the county will never again end up with that golf course. I'm trying to circumvent the questions that I know are coming. The $1.2 million, we had talked to the county manager about a possible interest rate of 1.25%. We know that you all would like to discuss that today, or we're anticipating that you'd like to discuss that today. And I believe those funds are available from the health insurance fund. And again, I would defer to Mr. Abate as to the explanation of where those funds would come from. But as you can see, we've been doing our due diligence. We've been working with your team to try to come to a solution where we do not leave the homeowners high and dry. Because as much as we want to blame them about their $150 annual assessment, that's all they needed to cover their common areas. But they are willing and they are supportive of their association to stand up and actually take ownership of this golf course, which again is dropped in their lap. This golf course has been county owned for 29 years. So with the surety bond, that's something that the association would have, and any of the money that's drawn from that line of credit, there would be 24 months where the money could be drawn from the line of credit. From there, as soon as money is drawn, the first payment is due within 90 days. The repayment period will be over the 15 years. And again, the association would have the surety bond over the golf course property so that those funds are secured for the county. The other thing we are doing is we would like the county, we will be petitioning to establish a community development district, a CDD. And the CDD, what it will do is the association will lease the golf course property to the CDD. The CDD will then have a 25-year lease with the association to operate the golf course. So the 3 payments of $320,000 that I spoke of will actually go to the CDD. The CDD will also be having the loan with the association as guarantor through the surety bond. As far as stormwater management, this would also limit the current responsibilities the county has with regard to stormwater management. We've been looking at the maps of where some of these stormwater management facilities are located. For those that are located on the association property, those would be association responsibility. I believe there are 2 exceptions on the easterly side and westerly side where the county needs access under an easement that your staff has notified us of. So those would remain county responsibility. But as far as the rest of the stormwater management located on association property, that would be the associations, except for the county roads rights of way that the county would continue maintaining those pipes under those rights of way like it does for all the other communities. The association and the CDD would also enter into an agreement with the county for the reclaimed water supply that the county currently has responsibility for. That's the gray water that's used to irrigate the golf course. And the other part of the agreement is that the association would agree to deed over the westerly portion of Tract 6 from the original plat of the Savannas, which the county is already using for mosquito impoundment, so it'll just make it clear cut so that the county will continue having that property for the mosquito impoundment project that's located on that property right now. The association will also agree to execute a hold harmless agreement and release the county of all claims related to the golf course property. And that's where that payment comes in that we're seeking, so that we can both move forward our separate ways, but actually work with the county, repay the $1.2 million, or as little or as much of that as the county or as the association and the CDD end up needing to make this golf course a beautiful facility for those 20 and we're hoping 30,000 plus rounds of golf that are going to continue to be played at this golf course, that it can continue to benefit the residents of Brevard County, but also be owned now privately so that the association can operate it and manage it through the CDD, but also so that the county has a drop dead date so that you all can stop the bleeding that I know has been concerning you so much. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Thank you, Ms. Bossinger. Commissioner Isnardi?
Just for clarification, we had that discussion at length with you here as their attorney, and not once did you bring up the fact that the homeowners association fees couldn't be increased based on them owning the property. In fact, we heard from dozens of residents that stated either they didn't want to pay more than the $150 or that they were going to be, costed out of their homes because they're all on fixed incomes on this HOA. So that's just for the record, that could have easily been clarified and settled as an item of issue long before you brought it up here today. Again, the general feeling was that they didn't want to pay more. Then they were willing to pay more, but they didn't want to pay very much, which I'm glad that at least we got to the point to where they were willing to pay more, because understandably they want to obviously keep the course. I can't speak for what happened 29 years ago, and I can't speak to why in God's name would the county put a golf course in an HOA is beyond me and beyond. When I tell people or when they read about this in the newspaper, they cannot believe that the county would even enter into that kind of agreement. But I want at least my message to be clear, not just to the homeowners in the Savannas, and this wouldn't matter. None of these golf courses are in my district. So, technically, I'm not catering to one group versus the other, but to me, your offering here has to be better. I think you're asking for 3 payments of $320,000, and you're asking for $1.2 million. I myself can't support it. I'm glad that you have something, but I think that you're asking for a lot. And I know that you've agreed to hold the county harmless, but, we have, as a commission, I mean, at least there was more than me saying, revert it back. And then that would leave it up to you to sue us. I don't want to do that. I don't want to hurt those homeowners. But, just gauging it on what was presented before, and also to let the public and the commission know, I can't tell you how many, and maybe it's because it's closer to my district, but how many hours Tom Becker and his group spent with myself and my staff going over this agreement. And I beat him up a few times in my office, and he came back, and we had some yelling another day. But I'm saying that the effort's been made there as well. So, but I think that their option, or at least what they're presenting, may be on the surface, and just looking at a number perspective, a much more appealing offer than what's been offered today. Again, I'm open to options. I'm not closing the door entirely. I mean, I'm glad at least you didn't come up here and tell us absolutely not, no way, they're not going to pay more. This is your responsibility. We've deferred maintenance. We've done that. I don't want to get into the philosophical reasons, again, of why the county should never have put this golf course in play to begin with. But I think that we can do better here. And I'm hoping we can, because it is an asset to the community. And I want to see these succeed, because obviously if there's standing room only in here, people want golf in the community. And I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to be open-minded. But it has to be reasonable. It can't be harmful to our taxpayers. So,
Well, and I think in response, Commissioner Isnardi, the 1.2 million is a line of credit. We're not taking the full 1.2 million right off the bat, and I don't even know if the CDD will need that amount of money. It's just the availability for the rainy day, because at the end of the day, you and I weren't there 29 years ago when the county agreed to do this, but the county did agree to do this. And these homeowners bought into this homeowners association with a county-owned golf course. And yes, there's that ability for the county to revert it to them, but they have not saved for it, and they could not have saved for it. So to put them in a position where now they don't have a rainy day fund because of the fact that now the county wants to make the decision to revert it back, we understand the county has to do its due diligence, and the commission needs to do its due diligence to protect the other citizens in Brevard County. But at the same time, dropping a golf course without having that rainy day bridge fund available for this golf course is not going to work for these homeowners. And then you're going to leave us in a position where I'm going to be representing this association through bankruptcy if they can't get through it. And there has to be this rainy day fund to protect them and have this availability. And not only that, and I don't want to pin us against what Golf Brevard is doing at all, but we are offering you a surety bond on that golf course property where you would not be ending up with this golf course. That 1.2 million is guaranteed. That's going to be paid, whether it's through the CDD and those homeowners paying it, or it's through the surety bond. That's getting paid. So I don't really see the issue with the county if those funds are available to help this community get through this situation with funds that are guaranteed. I think is a very viable option. I think it's very fair. I mean, just looking at the figures that the county had, 1.86 million for everything that needs to be done to that golf course. That's a lot of money of things that we're willing to take on.
And I don't mean to interrupt you
Sure.
here, but if we keep talking about, and I understand some of those numbers came from the county, some of those numbers have been adjusted, but let's be very clear, and maybe it wasn't stated enough during that meeting. The Krisovich report also included, we asked him to do an analysis, also included a contract as if we were to hire him to sell those properties for us. So I questioned right from the beginning motivation, what's in it for him, and it may have not been that. But, you look at it on its face, and are we going to hire him to make the property? He stood to make several $100,000. So, again, I'm not
Agreed.
trying to attack the man's character,
Right.
but what I'm saying is that's why I believe that those numbers have changed quite a bit. And he took what the county's numbers were, saw the worst doomsday there is. So I hold little credence to that.
Okay.
Again, and like I said, I'm willing to work with you.
Right.
I cannot, nor can you, but at the same time, it is not my responsibility to take the full brunt of it either, because this is a golf course in a PUD. So there has to be something, but the county doesn't really owe you or this homeowners association everything to make it right. We can try to work with you, we can try to help, but that's why in the agreement, it had that it would revert back to the HOA. That was what was in the agreement. And I never would have approved of this agreement had I been a commissioner 29 years ago, but I'm sure that was in there for a reason. And whether the county should have maintained it better, whether the county could support it in order to afford to maintain it better is a different issue. But we're looking at here and now, and we have to come up with something that's not just affordable, but that's answerable, because I'm not just answerable to that PUD. I'm answerable to my district and to the county. And the feedback I'm getting is, save the courses that have a shot and dispense, because this isn't a new issue. This isn't an issue that happened in the last 12 or 24 months. This is an issue that's been going on for years, and the county debates it. Different commissions try to come up with different solutions, and time after time we change it. We do management companies, and it fails. So it's got to be something new, but it's got to be something that's not going to put the county at risk.
Understood. And again, the golf course is open, and over 20,000 rounds of golf are played at the Savannas every single month. Over 20,000. So, or excuse me, a year. Excuse me, a year.
No talking out here, okay?
Excuse me, a year. So, this is not just an HOA golf course. There are HOA golf courses, but those are only open to the 287 people who live in there, as well as their guests. This is a golf course that's open to the public. So, and what we're looking for to the commission is to help us patch this so we can get through this position and be able to pay for this golf course so we do not have a defunct association, because this association, as it's been a homeowners association, has never been defunct. Any bankruptcies that occurred by the developer prior to the homeowners association being formed has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, because that was more than 29 years ago, and likely what caused the county to take this from the get-go because of some developer. Again, we weren't there, it's not our fault, but we can work together on coming up with this solution.
Thank you, Commissioner Snarty. Commissioner Barfield?
Yes, first I'd like to ask something of Mr. Knox, but I'd like to also retain to be able to ask questions right after that.
Certainly.
Mr. Knox, could you explain to everyone here again what a community development district is, and how it works, and how it relates to government and all of that, please?
A community development district is a quasi-governmental entity created by, in this case, the county commission, because this facility would have less than 2,500 acres. Therefore, the county commission would create it. You create it by ordinance. It basically delegates the function of government related to improvements to a group called the CD, I think it's called a district board. So they would function independently from the county. They would have powers to assess. They have powers to, if you want to give them the power to tax, they can do that also. In this particular case, they'll be the owners of the golf, or lessees of the golf course. And they'll be doing it for a period of 25 years in order to get from under the obligation to pay taxes on it, which other golf courses have to pay. That's primarily the reason for the CDD in this case, to save the homeowners tax money.
Okay, so we're talking about reverting on May 1st of this year, which means by May 1st, the county would not in any way, shape, or form own the golf course, correct?
May or June, it just depends on how quickly us attorneys can draft those agreements, yes.
Okay. Well, that could be next year.
No, I think what we discussed today was no later than June 1st is what we discussed today.
And first, I just want to let everybody know here, we've been working together on this, where we meet about once a week, it seems like, or once every other day. Everything that we've had workshops here before, all of this has been flushed out. More estimates are done. It's a long ways now from where it was. And I tell you what, I really appreciate working with everybody. That it's been very, very good working. Been a little contentious sometimes, but it's also worked really well. One of the things we talk about in here is that there'll be the $320,000 each year for the next 3 years. That's really not anything different than what we've done before on parks. I'll pass this out. Thank you. In 2016, we conveyed Palm Bay Regional Park over to Palm Bay, which makes sense, it's in Palm Bay. And we've done that with a number of parks, and this is just one example of them. And for 5 years after we do that, we still pay Palm Bay money for that. I think it comes out to about 1.2 million when you look at savings and what we are providing them. Year one is we do 502,000. Year two, 753,000, and I'm rounding it a little bit. Year three was 566,000. Year four, 566,000, and year five is 566,000. Now the reason for this is because we are turning it over, but we are also, there's maintenance and there's operations which need to go on with that. And we're dumping it on someone else, and I hate to say it that way, but we're turning it over to Palm Bay, who is not prepared for all of this funding. So it's logical to do this. That's not any different than what we're doing here. This is park owned, basically county park owned property, and we're conveying it over to a CDD eventually. And so I just want to be clear about this. This is not something that we haven't done before. We've done this recently at Lee Winter Park. We've done it with other parks. I'm going blank on some of the other ones, but we have done this. Where it makes sense to turn it over to someone else to do this. Turn it over to the city to do it, or you turn it over to someone else to organize it, to run it, and that's what we're looking at doing here. So I just don't want anyone to think this is something totally out of the blue, because we do this. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Tobias?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I had some questions for staff, but before that, I wanted to thank Mr. Shea. I thought every meeting I had with him was always very enjoyable. It's always fun sitting across from someone at the table who's markedly smarter than you are and doesn't have to rub it in. So I greatly appreciate the time, and I hope that no matter the outcome of this, that we're able to come together for more solutions. That's a problem. When you come to my office, I'm going to tap you for other ways to help Brevard County. So look for your caller ID. And also, Ms. Bossinger, I want to thank you, too. This started off as an idea, and I don't want to pin any other groups against your proposal, but I appreciate you coming to the board with things like terms and interest rates. I think that those are very, very important, as we make decisions as policymakers. So again, I certainly want to thank you guys for all your time and effort that went into this. But I do have some questions for staff. And I don't see Jill here, so I'm gonna. I'm sorry. These are softball ones, though. And Ms. Bossinger, I think you even put this out. It's my understanding, if I recall back, that the county recently refinanced some commercial paper to 2.75. Was that the amount? Correct. So would it be fair to say that, and again, that was just your initial proposal, that the 1.25 would be a subsidized loan based on our borrowing capabilities?
For internal loans between funds, what our practice has been is to use the consolidated interest earning rate. Right now, that's 1.53%. So that's the interest rate that we earn on our funds that are being invested. So that is the rate that we charge on those internal loans.
Thank you. So it would be subsidized, but smaller than that delta between the 1.25 and the 2.75. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. And one other follow-up question. My understanding is that we are still, and this isn't your issue, we're still owe $819,000 on this course. I assume that if we were to enter into that agreement, that obligation would still rest with the county. Is that a fair assessment?
We have been in discussions with county finance, and we're looking at the outstanding balance on that loan, but that amount is an internal loan between the general fund and solid waste. So the general fund would be responsible for whatever outstanding payments there are.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, can I switch over to the county attorney?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. The county's very recently expended approximately $20,000 on the snack bar at the Savannas. That will immediately become a private asset. So my question is, based on, and this new document just came through, I haven't had time to go over it, will that money be paid back under the county, to the county under this agreement?
The answer to that is no under the agreement, no.
Okay. Thank you. Would the HOA at any time be permitted to sell this course?
The way it is structured right now, there's not a restriction on use as a public golf course. So theoretically, assuming that they didn't, after 2 years or 3 years, it didn't work out as a golf course, they would own the property, they could turn around and sell it.
Thank you. And we mentioned a surety bond, but in order to get a surety bond, isn't the organization, isn't collateral needed? My understanding is collateral is needed in order to get a surety bond. Is that a fair assessment?
I think in most commercial operations, yes. The answer is yes.
Would it be fair to say that most likely the land on the course would be used as the surety or the collateral on that surety bond?
I would say the answer to that is yes, because the surety company wants to make sure they're going to get paid if they have to pay us. So they would be looking to get a piece of property they could sell to someone else to make the money back that they paid to us.
Thank you. So do we have an assurance that this will actually remain a golf course? Or even, let alone public, should this organization go defunct one way or another, the surety bond would come back to, the bond bound would come back to the county, so we would be made whole, but then the surety company or the insurance on the surety company, the reinsurer, would then have the ability to do whatever they want with a course? Is that a fair assessment?
Subject to regulations, certainly going to have to come back to you to talk about what the zoning in that course would be, because right now it's zoned for public use, and I think GML is a proper zoning, which is something they can't really use it for right now.
Okay. Would the county be able to immediately revert the course back to the HOA without this agreement?
Well, of course, the homeowners would disagree with me, but I think the answer to that's yes.
Okay. And then one final question here. If the county were to do that immediately, is it your legal opinion that the county would be responsible to pay the deferred maintenance?
In my opinion, we would have an argument about that, and we'd probably end up litigating about it, and the court would decide that issue, but our position would be we would not have to pay it.
Thank you.
You finished, sir?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Caught me by surprise. Okay. Commissioner Smith, do you have any questions, sir?
Can you hear me?
I can, sir. I can now.
Okay, because I was talking and I wasn't getting any response.
Okay.
Yes, I have no questions this time. I, like you, am not ready to make a decision today. There's questions I do have that I want to formulate further, and I will reach out to county staff and these two principals and ask my questions. But I'm not ready to make final decisions today.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Isnardi?
And I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but Commissioner Barfield brought this up. I remember when the county reverted or agreed with the city of Palm Bay to go over this 5-year plan to revert the park, and I think we had the aquatic center and some other issues. I mean, the county realized a fiscal impact savings of $1.5 million and then an annual savings of $960,000 plus any capital expenses. And the reason why the city pursued taking over that park is because of the failure of maintenance. So the county had an incentive to dump it. It wasn't like, and the city, understandably wanted it. And, the park was built with referendum money as well. So there's more to this story than just, okay, well, we gave the city money. And conveying a park back to a city who's now brought it up to a better standard is not the same as converting or reverting a golf course back to an HOA or a CDD. So I just wanted that on the record since you brought it up.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Barfield?
Yes, that's, I wasn't really trying to say that. What I was trying to say is we are saving money by reverting this golf course now. We will pay some out for a few years, but just like it's Palm Bay's, that's what they do. It's their park. They have a much better opportunity to maintain it to the level it needs to be. The same way as here with the golf course, we have the people that are using it. We have it right there. They're going to maintain it because that is their golf course. And over the years, if you figure if we're bleeding whatever, $100,000 a year, over 10 years, we're going to save $1 million that we never had before. And so that's kind of, so Commissioner Snarty, I wasn't really trying to say that about Palm Bay. I was just trying to give an example about how, and we've done it at Lee Winter Park in Cocoa too for the same way, because they're the closest to it, they maintain it, and they have the better resources to do that there. So anyway, that.
Okay, well, maybe it wasn't clear, but I just noticed that this happened to be in District 3 and District 5. So, and also as well, and again, I'm not opposed to doing something. What I take issue with is the amount. I think that the amount is too high, at least for me to feel comfortable. But I'm not opposed, and I'm open for a solution. I just think that it, at least for me to support it, needs a little more work.
Thank you, ma'am. We kind of inherited this. And I'm going to throw this out. It didn't happen on our watch, which I'm sure a commission 12 years down the road is going to say that about something that we're doing here over the next few years. But it's a tough situation. It's an expensive situation. I've got to tell you up front, I'm not all in that disagreement with Commissioner Isnardi's thoughts. They're pretty straight down the line financially. But there's some things here that have gotten me a little more comfortable. One, your ability of what you've done pulling this together. We were so far, there was such a wide gulf between us when we started out that you've really done a lot of work and tried very hard to get to a center ground. The CDD, I think it's a great idea. I love that you're getting a surety bond for the $1.2 million, which gives us no liability at all. It will come back. Commissioner Tobias brought up a good point about the interest rate, and I'm not sure what he was asking. He kind of stopped midstream and was kind of hoping to find out where he was going with it. But Mr. Knox, if we get an internal loan, or we go out and get a loan for short term, what interest rates are we paying? Is it the 2.75?
I think that's what, yeah.
I can answer
Jill's
that.
nodding.
The consolidated loan that we recently moved commercial paper, which is short term,
Yes.
right, went to a 13-year. And in that case, that was what Ms. Hayes indicated was 2.75%. I do want to say one point in all fairness. When we had the dialogue, our dialogue was what was our internal rate. And I did the best I could from memory, and it happened to be at 1.20%. And I think that's the reason why the 1.25, we had spoken to that. So, and I believe that's probably why in the letter said you were open to the negotiation. So it wasn't that they were demanding in there. And I just want to say
Sure.
it was, it was in a meeting we had on a Friday afternoon, and we did the best we could off the top of our head. And says, hey, this is what we are paying on an internal loan, and you happen to use that number.
Okay, so I'm going to ask if we work through this, that we get an interest rate that will just cover the county's interest rate for the money being borrowed. On the $320, well, I looked at it, say we kept it for 2 years, we're losing $15,000 a month. There's $360,000. And the capital costs were high, and I believe, Mr. Shea, you had come up with a number saying, yeah, we could get it down to 600. So I took the 360 with 600, it's 960 divided by 3 is 320 a year. So I can get comfortable with that number. When we had the initial conversation, we were talking about the open green space. If the county did that, I talked with our parks director, and she said it could be as high as $200,000 a year trying to maintain this space. So I don't know if this is that far off of an equitable agreement to where it could be very comfortable. Again, it's a tough situation, and it's an expensive situation. But what this does is it gets the county out of the golf business, which I think must be done. And not say anything about the commission in the past, but if we maybe have done this a few years ago, we would be free and clear of this right now, which the future commission then will have it taken care of. So I'm actually pretty comfortable with this if we change the interest rate to 7.5. I'm actually fairly comfortable with this. We've been having a lot of conversations back and forth. I've been with the legal staff pretty heavily for the last month or so. So I'm just going to throw it out up front. I probably would be good to go on this today if we change the interest rate, because you took care of the 1.2 million and.
We're good on the 2.75.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the motion that the board wants to make.
Okay, so just letting you know, I think you did everything we asked you to do, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, any more comments? Then I guess I'm going to open public comment. Oh, Commissioner Tobias, please, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was just saving this for the conclusion, but I think you summed up your opinion. So I wanted to throw out, I never thought there
I thought it might be smart,
No,
because then people might not want to talk and we
No,
get
that's
done,
great.
right? Okay.
This is something, so my issues is, as I was going to talk about in the conclusion, is the county would be putting forward money, and then there were ways where this then would no longer, the public would no longer have access to the park, as the questions, or to the golf course, as I posed to the county attorney. So I wanted to get us out of the golf industry, golf business, the same as you, and I think there's a way to do this, and that would be to roll the $960,000 in direct payment into the line of credit. If we rolled it directly into the line of credit, then taxpayers have no interest seeing there is a surety bond out there. The folks have the ability to continue to run the course, and should they decide they want to go in a different direction, whether that be sell it for homes, sell it to a private company, or whatever the course may be, then county money would not be in that. That $960,000 would not be in private developers' hands, and if we rolled it into that line of credit. So I'm not arguing with the $960,000. I'm not arguing with the 1.2, but I'm arguing about having taxpayer dollars go into something that we've pointed out through 2 or 3 different ways that can end up not in good public use. And that being in the line of credit certainly protects taxpayers, as well as gives this organization, these homeowners, the ability to push forward in any direction they so choose, as well as getting us out of the golf industry. So that would be a compromise with the exact same numbers, just in one category instead of 2.
And in response to that, that would not settle the disagreement between the association and the county as to the level of maintenance that this golf course has been maintained. The $960,000, over $600,000 of that is just to bring it up to the level of maintenance for the deferred maintenance that we believe is the county's responsibility, even though the county's figures from Kristovich, and I know maybe we don't want to use those figures, but even the county's figures and National Golf Foundation's figures when they came in a few years ago were over between $834,000 and $1.7 million. So we're looking at trying to do it for less money, but at the same time use the $1.2 million for the bridge and also for the capital improvements that we'd like to make the golf course better. But that's not going to resolve our differences if the association is going to have to pay back $960,000 on top of the $1.2 million. That's going to be something that's not going to have the association holding the county harmless for the lack of maintenance that's been done to this golf course.
And again, I thank you, but as a county commissioner, while I not discounting your legal opinion, I have to go with the legal opinion on the county that says, as you heard, that we don't have that responsibility. So I understand that you have an obligation to your homeowners to say that you do, but I have to, and the county should stick with the county attorney that says, in fact, we do not. And I think this is a fair compromise to meet the two. And of course, you would have legal ramifications to figure out, whether your opinion or our opinion was correct.
Well, and to qualify what County Attorney Knox said, he said we would have a disagreement. our position would be, just like I know what our position would be. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen is we're going to end up in a lawsuit that's going to stop the reverter from happening as long as we're prolonging this lawsuit, because we would ask the court for an injunction until the court made a determination as to the level of maintenance before reversion. So all it's going to do is prolong the county hanging on to this golf course for unnecessary time instead of coming to an amicable solution that I think the county has the funds through the different mechanisms that I spoke to the county manager about to actually get this deal done and actually amicably resolve this issue with the 287 homeowners within the Savannas.
And just to do the math real quickly, because I'm not very good at math, to be fair, the $960,000 that you said you're bleeding at $15,000 a month would give us more than 5 years. And while I also know very little about the legal system, we have asked, and it appears that most likely this would be decided one way or another within that 64-month period of the loss to make up that $960,000.
Sure, but we're all just wasting our time handling a lawsuit, having your county attorneys deal with a lawsuit instead of moving forward to more pressing issues that would benefit all the taxpayers within Brevard County.
Thank you for that spin.
Sorry, Commissioner Barfield.
Yes, it's the old thing about beating a dead horse, and we've talked about this for so long, about what we're going to do. This is the first time something's come before us where we're being proposed to revert it. And I think that everything's in line that we should really move forward with this. I mean, there still has to be some negotiation to be done, but we've got the interest rate where it should be. I believe that everything's been done in good faith. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and make the motion that we accept this letter of intent with an interest rate of 2.759 or 2.75%, and that we instruct to go ahead and begin the development of the CDD in the terms of this letter of intent.
I have a motion on the table. Mr. Knox, I have to ask you a question because we've never been to this place before without me really messing it up. I have cards. Do I have to call cards first before we vote?
If you get a second, you might want to do that before we have a discussion on it again.
So I should go for the second first?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to approve it with some further negotiations. Do I have a second? Commissioner Smith, are you with us, though?
I am.
Okay. So I have no second, so at this point, this dies for a lack of second. And so I'm going to call some cards.
Sure.
For public comment. I do have 20 cards here, and everybody's going to have 5 minutes to speak, so just to let you know that's 2 hours. So I'm going to ask you that if you would come up, and of course, you're allowed to speak the whole 5 minutes, but if you want to agree with somebody who just made a comment, if you would, just for time's sake. And I would ask, too, that if you're the next person up, that you'd be ready to come forward as the next person is finishing up. That would be greatly appreciated. Mr. Larry, I think this is Fitzgerald. How'd I do? Come on up, sir. Thank you. Stuart Capps. You're going to be next, sir.
Commissioners, good afternoon. Larry Fitzgerald, Savannah's Trail. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. This is the third time I've been here for this. I don't think it'll be the last, to tell you the truth, but who knows. I want to focus on something a little different than how great this Savannah's is and why it's important. And that is, I've been to 2 commission meetings, and I have noticed a tone or an attitude from some that somehow the Savannah's homeowners are the bad guys. Somehow we colluded with someone to give ourselves a good deal here. As is said, this happened 29 years ago. I wasn't here. I dare say 99% of the Savannah's homeowners weren't there. We're second, third time homeowners. All I know, I bought a house that was on a golf course, and the contract with the county said for perpetuity. Now, they had a reversion clause in there. I agree, but that said, now, over some of the meetings, I know one of the previous meetings, a comment was made, well, look to your title insurance. I looked at mine. My title insurance says nothing about a golf course, which makes sense. I wasn't buying a golf course. I was buying a house. All right, so that's not, I really can't go that way. The $150 a year annual dues has been beat to death. Our lawyer has addressed it, so I won't go any further. As has been said, we've all voted. We know our assessments are going up, and not by a few dollars. All right? When we bought in there, that wasn't part of the deal. But we see the county's position. You guys want out of the golf course business. Fine. We're doing what we can to help. I'm getting, it seems to be that, I know that the Savannah's board, the Savannah's partners, and the homeowners, we've stepped up. We've really said, okay, here, we understand the county's position. We want to do what has to be done, even though it's painful. Okay, we'll do what we have to do. All right, but it seems like there's a thing, hey, sucks for you, too bad. All right, deal with it. And I really hope that at the end of the day that we can work this out to everyone's mutual benefit. No one wants to turn this into a court case. It's expensive. All right? There was a comment made, well, $150 a year doesn't buy you much lawyer. And that's absolutely true. But we've already signed up for increased assessments. So if that's what it takes, okay. Thank you. And in closing, I'd just like to say I really hope you try to work with us and work the deal that's been offered. It's all been done in good faith, and we've got skin in it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Capps, Kathy Thompson, if you'd be ready, please.
Okay, Madam Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Stuart Capps. I'm here to give you some of my input, which I think hopefully will help you. I'm on the board of directors of Aqua Arena, which has the golf course 8 to 10 miles south of Spencer, Holland. Before I get into that situation, I would suggest that one of the things in Sonia's presentation for the Savannahs that you may want to consider is put a reverter clause in the deed so that if they don't operate it as a golf course, it reverts back to the county. So you don't have a problem with that. So I would suggest that you may want to consider that. I think they can succeed in their golf course just like we've done. It's been a hard fought. We've had tough times, but I think they can certainly do that. With regard to Spencer, Holland, and the habitat, I'm not so sure that a nonprofit is the way to go. My suggestion would be lease it out to a private entity that is a golf management company that runs many of the facilities, somewhat like Batry does. The lease could be in any consideration or format that the county would choose. It could be zero-based for the first few years and then goes up where it actually makes the county some money. But I think that's worthy of consideration. A nonprofit with people that haven't run a golf course, that's going to be a difficult situation to succeed. In the 3 C's of lending, the first one that was mentioned was character. Well, you have a 501c3 that doesn't even exist, so there's no track record. But a professional management company does have track records, and there's many of them that can do, I think, a competent job. One of the things that Aqua Arena has had an issue with in the past is we're competing with Spencer, Holland, and with the county subsidies, it makes it difficult because they set their rates at a level that we have to compete with them. So if you get a professional management company, I think it'll be more of a level playing field for all those communities, not only Aqua Arena, but Spencer, Holland, the Habitat, and I think they can do a good job for the county. So those are my suggestions. I read the same article about the Baltimore model that Commissioner Tobia read, and I don't think it worked well. I mean, at least recently. So my suggestion is more people here will probably end up playing on Spencer Holland in the future if you have a professional management company run that facility with the habitat, and they run it on a professional basis with their experience and with their economies of scale. So those are my comments.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Kathy Thompson. John Richardson, you'll be next, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Finally, thank you all for your service to our communities. I would disagree with that analysis. I and many of my community believe in Spessard Holland. I believe that the nonprofit is a serious business plan that needs to be taken seriously. We're all in to support it in any way we can. And so we are prepared as the golf community and all of us who golf there that we will do whatever is necessary to make this business plan work. So I speak in behalf of those of us who golf on the beach, who support Spessard Holland. We've just had a wonderful golf outing that we had done. We brought the golfers into the golf course. We had our festivities at the clubhouse. And so for those of us who golf there every day, our social community revolves around Spessard Holland. And so I think what happened with the earlier management company, as we well know, was not a very wise business decision and suffered for that. So please consider the Baltimore plan. Those of us who golf there every day, we believe that we can take this project on and make it very profitable. The other thing I just want to encourage you, don't underestimate your constituents when it comes to this decision. Thank you very much.
Mr. Richardson, you're next, please. And Andrew Loden, you'll be next, please.
My name's John Richardson. Live at 838 Mallard Road, Cocoa. I'm a member of the Savannah's Partners. First of all, I would like to thank staff, the commissioners and their legal aides for taking the time to meet with Mr. Fred Shea and myself to discuss the aspects of this thing going down the road. Secondly, I would hope that we could get at least 3 of the commissioners to understand the position that we're in and to support the Savannah's Homeowners Association and the Savannah's Partners. To do this, you support that and you get rid of the Brevard County albatross, that thing that's been hanging around your neck for a long time. Now, for those of you that are non-golfers, an albatross is actually a very good thing in golf. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bloden, Ron Marsh, you'll be next, please. Are you Mr. Marsh? Mr. Bloden's on his way up, I believe. Is he here?
Andy?
Andy's here? Andy? It says BLOW, but I'll let you. You guys do realize I have to read your names off these things.
I tried. I worked for government once, many years ago with the United States Navy. So I don't really want your jobs. I did mine at the time. Anyway, I'm just a golfer. I do the habitat. At one time we had a group of people out there we called the Sunday Sinners golf. We seen sunrise, or we golf at daylight, and we try to get out of there by 10 o'clock. That group, through the years, has finally diminished down to zippy. And recently, I'm with the group now where we do the same thing. We tee off at daylight. And our group is consistent of about, let's say, average of about 21 people, as high as 36. We pay our dues, costs about $42 a month, and we all have the golf county card. I'd hate to see the golf course go potty or parky. I've got an alligator out there that lost its right front leg about 8 years ago. We call him Stumpy. He goes from west to east. I don't know why all the time. I think there's fish in a pond on the east side. I would just like you to keep my golf course for me. I won't be here much longer, but for the people who will follow. I started golfing 60-some years ago. Well, actually 60 years ago. And I started as a caddy in a county golf course. As time progressed, that county golf course was basically given way to commercial. But before they did, they opened up a brand new golf course not 5 miles from there, which all of us used. And to this day, that golf course is still there and it's paid for by the county. I don't know if $42 is a good bargain. I paid a hell of a lot more at a lot of other golf courses. But I like the idea of paying $42. Now, I'll even stand a little bit more if you keep it open. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Barfield, sold lights. Okay, thank you. Okay, Ron Marsh, and then Raymond Godfrey, you'll be next.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron Marsh. I preside at 720 Brockton Way in Melbourne. I've been part of the Golf Brevard Steering Committee since inception. A lot of hours, a lot of hard work by a lot of people put into this, a lot of thought behind it. As we know, it's not your commissioner's fault, but it's Brevard County's fault over the last 29 years. And it's a hard situation to deal with. I'm on the steering committee as part of my job as a construction engineer was to investigate the costs of deferred maintenance on both courses. The habitat inspector. Some of the deferred maintenance was presented by Mr. Krichevich in his report. The other was done by ourselves. As of this time, the two courses, there's approximately $800,000 of deferred maintenance on both courses, not including every item on Krichevich's report. Over $220,000 alone on 2 pumping stations. Over $400,000 on bunker repairs, especially at Habitat, where the front 9 sand has no sand in the front 9 holes. These sand traps have to be dug out. All the hard pan has to be dug out, removed, drained, checked, and cleaned, and then added sand. And there are numerous other items on the list. It just shows how much the county neglected the courses. There is money in the county budget for golf courses, which some has shown returns, but there is no return on county parks nor boat launches. Give Brevard County taxpayers a chance by allowing our tax dollars to go and keep these 2 courses open. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Godfrey, Patrick Pollock, you'll be next, please.
Thank you. I'm Raymond Godfrey, and appreciate your efforts here. I'm here primarily because my parents had wonderful times out at Spessard Holland, and so I asked myself when I saw the piece in the newspaper, well, what would they say? And if they were around. I think they'd be raising the flag for a sense of community that feels like we need a lot more of that these days, and I mean nationwide. I think another thing that they'd be stressing is some science-based approaches to golf courses here, public golf courses, that might reduce the costs ultimately of caring for the golf courses. And for that, I was thinking in terms of some of the stuff that my wife and I learned from the U.S. Green Building Council and the Florida Solar Energy Center when we were building a hurricane knocked over house here in Florida about 6 years ago. And the USGBC taught us about drought and salt tolerant plantings. They taught us how to do a landscaping with minimal fertilizer or pesticides, and much reduced water usage, things that potentially could save golf course management costs. They also, FSEC was, got us thinking seriously, as did the USGBC, about solar panels. We didn't put them on, but we oriented the roofing in such a way that they could be taken advantage of at a point in time when we felt the panels might be cost effective. And things having to do with smart clubhouse and facilities designs. I had a personal experience with a golf course out west where people went in and decided they looked at probably some golf course designer magazines, and they knocked over an old clubhouse that was there that used to be full of people meeting and talking and betting and watching TV and just enjoying each other's company. They bulldozed it over, put up a big kind of a mausoleum structure that the participation rate, probably very expensive, dropped off below 50% of the people that used to go into the use that facility. So smart design had to do with people-centric designs. And finally, I played my first round of golf ever at the Melbourne Golf Course back in the 60s. And my family, my brother and sister Sibs, we all grew up here in Melbourne area. And came back, I don't know, it's probably 20 years later or so, and went out to the golf course and noticed it had been completely redesigned. And so I looked around for someone who thought that they were a better designer than, I believe it was Donald Ross, world famous golf course architect that had designed the track there at the Melbourne Golf Course, and decided to rejigger it for some reason. Couldn't get any straight answers there, but decided, not every committee that gets together to make decisions. What did that cost, that decision to remove and retrofit a Donald Ross design? What might that have cost? Okay, thank you again. The drought tolerant, water tolerant stuff, and so forth, and smart people-centric designs on the otherwise potentially big brick and mortar structures that I discovered at a track that I played in out west. The people didn't want that, but it was a fait accompli, and so it's not used. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pollack, Ann Bruns, you'll be next, please. I'd be glad to hand them out for you. Okay.
My name is Patrick Pollack. I'm the president of Aquarena Community Association. Aquarena Beach and Country Club is a community of 385 homes right now. Ultimately, it'll get up to 500, but today we're 385. We are built around a golf course. Our community stretches from the ocean to the Indian River Lagoon, and our golf course touches 14 of our 18 sub-communities, so it's very important. It's the second highest motivation factor for people moving into Aquarena. We're aggressively improving the course, very much like Savannah's has a problem with their course today. We purchased our course in 2012. It was essentially fallow. It was in disrepair. It had been through multiple management/ownerships in the prior 3 years. So we were in essence starting from scratch. The reason why we're putting the money into our golf course is because the failure of the course is not an option. Also, the financing that we used to purchase the course contains covenants that require us to do that. What I would like to say, bottom line, in that respect, Brevard County, by subsidizing its golf courses, is damaging us financially, particularly Spessard Holland.
Please.
There's no need for golf courses in the county that are county-run. There are 28 golf courses conveniently located throughout the county. Plenty of competition, plenty of alternatives. The economics of the county-run course has been talked about today, and it's not viable, okay? We're in a diminishing industry in golf. Its popularity has diminished, the number of participants have diminished, and it continues to go down. The county really doesn't belong in the golfing business, competing with private golfing organizations. Basically, the county is selling a product below cost. If we were talking in the international community, we'd be calling it dumping. There are direct subsidies, which are the numbers that show up in the Kristovich study, an analysis, but there are a bunch of hidden subsidies that are also being paid for by the taxpayers. No recognition of the cost of the property, no real estate tax, no sales tax on purchases such as chemicals, fertilizers, so on. They're all things that we have to pay and that any other private organization would have to pay. And basically, as a competitor, we have to match that. Now, why do we have to match that? That's because 3/4 of our players are from outside the community, okay? We generate, this year we are about 24,000 rounds, and Ann Bruns, who will follow me, will give you the details of that. Basically, we support the findings of the Kristovich analysis. I think that transferring the Savannah's properties to the Savannahs is the correct thing to do. It works. We're a good role model for that. We made it work in our community. We would be happy to work with them and teach them, not teach, but present them, give them lessons that we've learned. The other 2 courses we think should be taken private. If not taken private, at least remove the subsidies and let them compete on the same basis that everybody else does. All right? The next 3 speakers on your list are from Ocarina, and they're going to support some of the data that I just gave you and some of the analysis.
Thank you, sir.
All right? Thank you.
Ms. Ann Bruns and Mr. John Miller, you'll be next. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Bruns, and I hold the volunteer position of President of Ocarina Golf Incorporated, the corporation which oversees our golf community-owned businesses, including golf operations. I want to speak to you today on behalf of golf operations, and we'll begin with a comparison in the handout of Ocarina to Spessard Holland. Ocarina Golf is in direct competition with Spessard, as you've already heard.
I'm sorry, hold on just a second,
Yes.
please. We have a whole lot of people leaving, but...
No problem.
Okay, if y'all would mind leaving real quietly for us. We have a speaker up front. Hello? Thank you for helping. Yes, ma'am, continue.
Thank you very much. So Ocarina Golf is in direct competition with Spessard Holland. As you can see in the comparison in my handout, Ocarina is a par 62 executive course, Spessard a par 67 executive course. Both are open to the public. Both draw from the same geographic market on the Barrier Island in Melbourne Beach, as they are located less than 10 miles apart off A1A. Ocarina has a full-service restaurant and bar, and Spessard has the snack bar. Ocarina is increasing its rounds of play, and Spessards are decreasing, as we've been hearing. We are investing heavily in our course and its future, and Spessard is deferring the maintenance and experiencing increasing costs and a widening budget deficit. Golf is clearly very important to our residents of our community. Many of the residents could tell you stories like Bill and Lou that were in yesterday's Florida Today editorial. Golf, tennis, and many other organized activities offered throughout our area are great ways to certainly meet friends and create long-lasting bonds. It happens at Ocarina, and it probably happens through play in leagues offered at all 28 of the golf courses throughout Brevard County. The Ocarina resident commitment goes even further, though. We, as evidenced several years ago, and Patrick mentioned it, we held a community vote to purchase and operate the golf course ourselves when it was sold by the developer and then quickly thereafter closed. We borrowed the funds to purchase the land, formed the organizational structure to rebuild and reopen the course. We were able to do this because of the tremendous support from our residents who willingly and consistently volunteer their time and talents. It is this support and true dedication that allowed us to overcome several challenges along the way and bring our course back to its current condition and achieve today's operational progress. Take it from a community that knows and has lived it. The deferred maintenance that has been mentioned here several times today, as documented in your analysis, the Kristovic analysis, creates a very expensive recovery. Please turn to the next data. We all recognize that there are direct taxpayer subsidies provided to bridge the budget. However, as Patrick also mentioned, there are indirect subsidies, real estate taxes, personal property taxes. We understand the county departments may be performing work at the courses, such as your Department of Road and Bridges, repairing cart paths, or providing resurfacing of a parking lot. Let's take a look at a comparison of the annual rounds played between these two courses. You can see on the graph the rounds played at both courses from 2012 on. In 2012, we reopened, so ours starts at 0. Spessard Holland was at 47,000 rounds that year. In 2017, Spessard dropped to 34,000 rounds, and we had increased to 20,000. And the numbers to date indicate that Spessard will finish 2018 below the budgeted rounds at 30,000 or less, and Ocarina will finish at 25,000 rounds. The gap in annual rounds between Spessard and Ocarina has decreased from that 40,000 to 0 at the very beginning to now less than 6,000 rounds apart. The next page shows more recent data. The comparison of Ocarina and Spessard over the past 5 months is shown, and the course performance for the same period of time a year ago. The blue line is last year's, the red line is this year. And as you can see, Ocarina is strongly gaining rounds and Spessard is losing rounds. The increasing slope of Ocarina's month-over-month trend predicts a bright future compared to Spessard's significant losses. Compared to, you can see the worsening trend. The bottom line can be summarized in the following. Golf is declining nationally. Players in our area are likely playing both of our courses, both Ocarina and Spessard. But Ocarina is still taking market share. We were up in January 17%, up 28% in February. Spessard rounds are decreasing, as I've mentioned. So if Spessard lowers their prices to attract business, then their revenue is less. There's a larger deficit from the budget, requiring a higher taxpayer subsidy and causing more deferred maintenance. Less than 1% of our county residents are playing golf on the 3 county courses, and 100% of the county taxpayers are subsidizing these courses. Given the data that I've shown you, how can you believe that Spessard will meet the increased forecast of $260,000 in profits while the real year-over-year rounds played to date are down 19%?
Thank you, ma'am.
Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller and Becky Wagman? Wagaman? Do we have a Becky here? Okay, you'll be next.
I'm John Miller, also from Ocarina, and I wanted to thank the Commission for their hard work and thoughtful deliberation on this issue and so many others. What I was going to say has been said to a large extent by other speakers. And I think it's just a little bit of our experience that may be applicable to the situation that the Savannah's is in now, because we're roughly equivalent in terms of, I think, of our size. They're 287, we're 385 homes. I would say a level of affluence. They talk about having people with fixed incomes. We have people with fixed incomes. I think both communities have people with fixed incomes that are comfortable. In our case, we had to buy our course after the developer went belly up, and he had sold the course off to a private individual who closed it. So we had to buy it, and we had a gun to our heads, and we had to pay a lot of money for it. We ended up with a very big mortgage, a course that was just in terrible shape, a substantial operating deficit, insurance, property tax costs, other things. Now, we've been paying down our bank note, investing to bring the course back into a beautiful condition, and fixing our many deferred maintenance problems, which we're well along with, and subsidizing a yearly operating deficit. Now, we could subsidize the course less, but we are putting money into the course because we want to continue to beautify it and bring it up to a very high standard. And for our players and the whole, all of our very revered customers that come in from all over the beaches area. Now, this effort that we've committed to costs each one of our 385 homeowners $712 a year. That's paying off the note, the deficit, deferred maintenance, continuing maintenance, payroll, the whole ball of wax is $712 a year. Just to give you some perspective on what it would cost a community to maintain their own course. Savannah's, in their case, would certainly improve their community because we did. And they could run their course much better, much more efficiently, much more competently, and certainly less wastefully than the county has proven that it has done and can't do these things. Anyway, I just, that's all I had to say. I wanted to reiterate what Ann said about the level of volunteerism has brought our community together. It's created friends, it's created better neighbors. It's been wonderful on every level. We've had such an enormous amount of expertise that we've found out that we had in this community on things like insurance, construction, government, and on down the line. So banking. Anyway, it was a great community effort, and I hope that, like I say, we're very open to the commission and to other golfing communities in Brevard to offer them some of our experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wagama? Wagaman, okay. Sharon Don Diego, you'll be next, please.
Hi, I'm a golfer and a resident of Indy Atlantic, and I just wanted to plead with the commissioners to keep all three courses public. The lower cost really is important to a lot of people, and I just think that access needs to be maintained however it can be. I've played all the courses being discussed and most of the private courses in the county and many other places, and really Habitat compares favorably to any golf course you can find anywhere despite the maintenance deficits. It really is a kind of a jewel for the community. My husband and I go out usually as a twosome, and probably 80% of the time we hook up with people from out of the area, and many of them say they come here because of the available public golf and the good reputation. And I think the collateral economic benefit isn't on any of your sheets, but those people are staying someplace and eating someplace, and their families going to movies or playing golf with them and so on. The other thing is the nonprofit solution. Already at the Habitat, very low-cost instruction is offered $15 for a clinic. And that opens up golf to high school students, retired people, all kinds of people go to that. And I think the nonprofit solution would pour money into things like that, that would then those people go out and play golf and bring value. That's all.
Sharon Don Diego and Joan DiGiorgio. You'll be next, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Sharon Don Diego. I am president of the Tuesday Women's Golf Association at Spessard Holland. I am getting older. So are all of you. You may want to play baseball, football, or whatever you're playing now, but you will eventually refer back to golf because your body will not be able to take boating and everything else that you do. Now, as far as Aquarina is concerned, I must make a rebuttal. My husband died 10 years ago. Many of the women I play with have no husband. We lose your Social Security, and we frequently lose your pension. Aquarina people are not in that position. They have a little better pockets than most of us do. Our women come from West Melbourne, from Indialantic, and Aquarina is just too far, and they don't have the money. We need to keep the county courses open. I think Tom's idea is wonderful. We have a lot of people. I'm previously a banker. And as far as lines of credit are concerned, I issued them without any collateral because we had people that we knew had the moxie and the understanding to pay us back. A lot of Brevard County would have not been built if we bankers had not given out unsecured lines of credit. And you can ask a lot of your developers that. But I need your help, and so does everybody else in this room who is on, they call it fixed, but it's not fixed. What it is a conservative budget. We cannot play the Sun Trees. We cannot play the Aquarinas. It's just beyond our means, and we need something that keeps us going and keeps us as part of this community. And I wish you would do something for us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Joan DiGregorio and Ed Moondale will be next.
Hello, my name's Joan DiGregorio, and I live at 3258 Beachview Way in Beechwoods in Mr. Tobias' district. My family vacationed and ultimately bought in Melbourne Beach, and one of the primary reasons is we're all avid golfers. I average 1 to 2 rounds of golf at Spessard Holland, so I know Spessard Holland very well. I can attest to the fact that Spessard Holland has provided tremendous recreational opportunities for myself and my family, including my children over the years. And it's also created a tremendous sense of community within the leagues that participate at Spessard Holland. For a lot of us, it's a community hub. It's not just a golf course. It's a place to go, meet your friends, spend some time, and spend some money. I would say I'm spending about $1,000 a year at Spessard Holland. So I have a vested interest, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm not someone who's saying, keep the course. I'm someone who's actually there playing and spending money on a regular basis. I pay taxes, and as a taxpayer, I don't expect that the tennis courts and the boat launch and the playgrounds and everything else that my taxes go to pay for actually pay for themselves. I know there's a subsidy because there's societal benefits that we all reap, whether we have young children or not. So as now a senior citizen, I'm asking for the commissioners to support a recreational opportunity that I benefit from personally, and I know a lot of my friends benefit from personally as well. So I would ask, I'm going to be very brief, I'm not going to reiterate anything anyone else said, but I'm just giving you a personal story of how much Spessard Holland means to me, and I've also patronized the Savannas and Habitat. So I would ask you to please keep our golf course open. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ed Muendel And Michael Valley, you'll be next, please.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Ed Mundell. I am a golfer, and I have been a resident and of both the county and Ocarina since 2002. The comments I'm making today represent the feelings of the vast majority of the golfers at Ocarina and many of our residents. Before I start, I would first like to thank the commissioners for taking on the Christovich study and for the hard work and that you're doing trying to resolve this issue of the continued subsidizing of golf courses in the county. It is long overdue. Years ago, when the developer failed at Ocarina, I was on the board, the first board, and I got together with several of the other board members, and we came to the county, to Helen Volz, who was at that time the commissioner, I also believe the chair, and kind of pleaded with Helen if she would consider approaching the county to see if they would take over the operation or in some way help us out at Ocarina, because we were on our back. We had a developer that left us, and IGM that was running the golf course had backed away because of non-payment of bills. And Helen, in her very direct way, if any of you know her, said that in no terms would the county be even considering another golf course. She said, we have too many of them now, and none of them make a profit. And that was over 10 years ago. And if anything, the trend has probably worsened from the time that Helen was at the realm. I would like to refute something that was just briefed to you by one of the presenters. The rates at Ocarina and at Spessard are identical. Depending on the hour of the day, they may vary by a couple of bucks, but they're identical. So it's no cheaper to play at Spessard or at Ocarina. They are, and also, the majority of the residents of Ocarina are not that well-heeled. We have relatively small condominiums, people on very fixed incomes, all the way to some larger homes along the golf course, and people that are probably more capable of paying higher fees. The first chart, bullet on the chart that you have, it states that the current and future golf trends and profitability of the county golf operations cannot be achieved using any feasible model that I heard today, whether it's by a nonprofit or by a profit, because the trends in golf interest and in demographics have not been addressed. And what the problem the whole golfing community is facing right now is interest in playing golf courses. That's going down, and you got to do something to create better interest. And also the demographics. It's Spessard. There's not much more room for further development to bring in more golfers. Perhaps at Habitat and at Savannah it is. The second bullet that I presented says that the South Beach, Spessard cannot compete with Ocarina. We have a unique community and a model that we work off of. We have 25% of our residents are members and paying. We have a very, very motivated resident base that are willing to make capital investments for the successful running of our golf course. We have a full-service restaurant that we offer that the other courses do not have. And the result is an ever-increasing share of walk-on trade. And that's what we're going to continue to do that. Bottom line, Ocarina residents are not going to let our golf and restaurant operation fail. I'd like to just go to, based on time, I'd like to go to the fourth bullet. It's an interesting statistic that 1% of the county population that are playing at county-sponsored courses are being supported by 100% of the taxpayers. That's a big number. And that really hurts, as was brought up earlier, it really hurts the operation of Ocarina. We are competing against other golfing organizations that are getting subsidized through direct and indirect services from the county. The last bullet, we believe that you should implement the Christoph study. You should close Spessard Holland. You should go ahead with the Savannah proposal, and the last sell or lease Habitat. I believe I'm out of time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Valley, David LeBlanc, you'll be next, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Mike Valley. I live at 1064 Eleuthera Drive, Northeast in Palm Bay, Florida. I spent my entire career in education up in a suburb of Chicago, and my family, my wife and my family would come down yearly to Florida, primarily to Daytona Beach. We always knew then we wanted to retire in Florida. I got the opportunity to retire in 2005, and we immediately headed towards Florida. We looked at 20 properties in Daytona Beach. We looked at 20 properties in Edgewood, New Smyrna Beach, all the way down. When we got to the Melbourne, Palm Bay area, after we looked at the house that we were interested in, I asked the realtor to take me to the golf courses. I started playing golf when I was 17 and fell in love with the game. When they took me to the 3 public golf courses of Spessart Holland, Habitat, and the Savannahs, I just fell in love with all 3 of the courses. They're so unique and different from each other. And the opportunities to have those, especially when we were able to buy in with an annual package to play all 3 golf courses, sealed the deal of why we moved here. Those opportunities to play golf as a golf lover have forged great relationships, as many of the other people have spoke to, that it has become a community of relationships as a way of life. You have before you, I think, 2 viable proposals from Golf Brevard and from the Savannah's package. And I know over the past number of years, because I've been down here since '05, that there has been problems with all 3 golf courses in terms of finances and so forth. But you have these gems of golf courses, and now you have 2 proposals that it sounds like are workable. You obviously need more negotiations going on, but I plead with you not to let this opportunity go to save those golf courses, and in the end have that financial responsibility off of the county commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valley. Mr. LeBlanc and Mr. Armbruster, you'll be next, please. Is Mr. LeBlanc here? LeBlanc? David LeBlanc? Okay. Mr. Armbruster?
Thank you for the work that you've done, and I live at the Savannahs, so you can tell what side of the issue I'm on here. So I family moved to Florida in 1960, been at the Savannahs, lived there for over 20 years, went to UCF and worked for Publix for about 39 years. And one of the things that someone said at UCF was customer service is hard to define, but you know it when you see it. And I think what we're talking about on a golf course is customer service. Served on the Golf Advisory Board, couple of tours of that, and we've got a proposal from the Golf Advisory Board to you folks asking to go over the Savannah's Partners group, which I'm a member of, and believe it's a chance for us to give back to the county. We hear a lot about this golf and golf business, and the county commissioners want to get out of the golf business. Well, that may be, but that wasn't your fault. You know, you guys inherited this golf problem, and the reason that you have inherited it is due to neglect. You know, those courses the Savannah's has not been maintained. I played golf with the pro at the Savannah's years ago, hit a ball in 14, about 10 feet out of the fairway, couldn't find the ball. We looked for that thing for a while, finally found it, and he had to stand over top of that ball and look, and it was like U.S. Open rough. He got his camera out, took a picture of the golf ball, and we went on. Finally, they got out there and mowed that. Had to have the sheriff's farm guys come out there and put the course back on its feet because it was neglected. And one thing that you do about customer service, when you neglect your responsibility, people leave. They're not going to play. If I worked for Publix for 39 years, and one of the things I found out about customer service, if you don't take care of your customers, you're under no obligation for them to shop. You're under an obligation to take good care and serve those people. Well, the county didn't do that. For you guys that want to get out of this golf business, I say, get over it. You know, the county neglected the Savannahs and put us in this mess where we've got to have all this money. What did, Commissioner, you said like a $1.1 million that could be better used for the lagoon and for infrastructure. How did that lagoon get in the mess it's in? I got an idea. It's neglect. It just got run down, and we've let our golf course get run down. And now the money that we need to help put that back in shape so that we can provide a good service, a good round of golf for our customers, me included, and a lot of other people. I don't know about those Aquarina guys, but they want to close down a course to increase their market share. We haven't got another course to shut down so that we can gain market share. We're out there to take care of our customers, and so I'm asking that. Sometimes in the past on the Golf Advisory Board, the County Commission has not always supported what the Golf Advisory Board. You appointed them, and then when we brought messages and different things to the County Commission, they haven't always approved. I would hope that this time you'd listen to the Golf Advisory Board, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. George Gilletko. And following will be James McDeed.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, George Gilletko, Chair of the Golf Advisory Board, address 507 Lake Victoria Circle, Melbourne, Florida. First of all, I'd like to start off and thank staff for the fantastic job that you've done and the great support that you've given us. You guys are awesome. You really are. And I'd like to thank the Commission for your hard work. I can see you're asking good questions up here, which will help you make a great decision. But I'd like to share a thought with you. And what I'd like to do is talk about the market conditions. As we look at the Baltimore model, when it was developed in the mid-'80s, the economy was moving upward. The model worked. When you're in a 25% downcline, I don't care what kind of business model you have, it is not going to work. That's where Baltimore's at today, but that's not where Brevard is. We're a growth market. Titusville is growing. Vieira's growing. And Palm Bay has potential growth opportunity, and they're going to grow. As we look at our economy in Brevard County, with Northrop Grumman and all the aviation and the space technology coming in, our average income is going to rise. And when that happens, you're going to have golfers out there. You're going to have people participating. I would also like to talk about a success story. I've been a member of Century Country Club for 15 years. 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when the economy was in a decline, we were talking about selling off a golf course. Now, we're just about at capacity. We're 15 members away from shutting off any more growth. So as we look at the 6% decline in golf nationwide, that does not impact Brevard County. Brevard County is doing good. I think the prospect for golf in this county is going to be great over the next 15 to 20 years. I think as Ocarina has done and Suntree has done, with great management in place and a great program in place, I think these golf courses can survive. Our general manager, Steve LaMontagne, played on a professional tour for 13 years. He went with Mary Ellen to all 3 golf courses. And he had never been to the one down in Palm Bay. I'm trying to think, Habitat. When he looked at that track, he says, this golf course has fantastic potential. So I think by going with what the recommendation of the Golf Advisory Board has given you with the public-private partnership, yep, you're going to take a risk, a short-term risk, but I think it's going to turn into a long-term endeavor. And I believe that these folks, these 2 entities, have the right management folks in place. They have a huge interest in providing what's right for Brevard County, and the Golf Advisory Board supports their efforts. Thank you so much, and we appreciate your hard work up there. I know you have tough decisions to make. You have infrastructure challenges that you have, and I know you guys will really work through this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McDeed? And Arthur Spurrell, you'll be next, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your hard work. My name is Jim McDeed. I live in the Savannas. While I'm talking, if you want to stand up and stretch your legs and shake your hands, I know you've been sitting down for quite a while. I walked in the door today, and I didn't really have any comments. We talked it all out at the Homeowners Association, but I had a few reactions to the discussions today. One of which was each of you represents a group of taxpayers in the county. And when we talk about taxpayers, who exactly are we talking about? The cell phones and Google make it easy. There's about 530 or 543,000 people in the county. Each of you represents about 110,000 people. Some of you don't have any golf courses in your districts. But what we're doing here today in talking about reverting the Savannas golf course is financially, on a per capita basis, we're talking about taking $180,000 per year loss in the Savannas golf course, spread across 543,000 people, which is 33 cents a year, and depositing it on 287 households in one subdivision. And that number works out to be about $627 per household in the Savannas. So when we talk about gains and losses for taxpayers, I know who's losing. The taxpayers in the Savannas are going to be paying part of the property taxes, which we researched is $20,000 a year, $70 per household. The losses, we're going to be assessed special assessments if there continues to be operating losses. And we anticipate that there will be for the first couple of years. Those will be financed by the loan. The county has no risk there if it's insured by a surety bond, but we will be assessed to pay the interest on that loan and the principal on that loan to pay back the county. So the money is assessed to us as one subdivision in the county. So we're paying $600 a year to pay for the golf course, and each homeowner in the county is saving $1 a year. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about taxpayers in the county. The public-private partnership that we're talking about needs to have skin in the game for both the county and the homeowners association. The county doesn't have risk with the surety bond, even though you're putting up the money to help us in this transition and the bridge loan. As I understand that bond, you're guaranteed, even in a default, that you're going to get your money back. What we need is the fairness and cooperation. Toward the end of the conversation today, it was very clear. The county attorney said, you have no obligation. You can revert this to the homeowners and walk away, and you're done. Yeah, you can. But I came out of college at Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach, and I moved to Houston in the 80s during the oil boom, when mortgages were easy to get and money was floating free and every corner had a Ferrari on it. And then the oil boom busted. And people walked away from their homes. So if the $150 homeowners fees we're paying now, and the $600 assessments we're going to pay, and the $70 property tax assessment we're going to pay, and the yet to be determined operating loss special assessment that we'll have to pay on a yearly basis gets added in there. If that breaks household finances of the homeowners, people are going to sell their home at a loss. People may abandon their homes and walk away. And then we're looking at lower property values, foreclosures in the neighborhood, lower sale prices. And who loses? The homeowners lose. The county loses tax revenue. Because if our assessments go down, your tax revenues go down. So we need to cooperate. Thank you very much. I'm out of time.
Thank you, sir. Arthur Spurrell, and then Dana Whitmore.
My name is Art Spurrell. I live at 3680 Savannah's Trail. Point of information. We had 221 votes out of 287. How many of those votes were no?
Sir, I'm sorry. You're going to have to direct questions to the front. We can't have a dialogue.
My question is, how many of those 221 votes were no?
Really, you can have a conversation right now.
That's fine. But what it says is you've got a group of people that are coming together. Now, Mr. Tobias, I happen to agree with you. I do not play golf like 80% of the people in the Savannahs probably, because I could never understand why you'd pay money to go outside and be frustrated in public. I can do that at home all by myself and save money. But this was a no-brainer proposition, which allows the people in the Savannahs to help control their own destiny, gets that nasty albatross off of your back, and allows us to move forward. Now, the Suntree Golf Course is financially successful. Golf courses can be financially successful if they are properly maintained, properly marketed, properly managed. And what the county has demonstrated over the last few decades is a fundamental inability to do that in a consistent way. There's a saying of lead, follow, or get out of my way. Margaret Mead said, never underestimate the power of a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens to change the world. Indeed, that's the only way change ever happens. Martin Luther King Jr. said, and I will paraphrase, change does not casually roll in on the wheels of inevitability. It comes through continuous struggle. What you've got is 77% of the people saying, let's go do this. You've got a committed citizenry that's willing to take on financial responsibility and do the struggle to move forward, get the albatross off your back, and make this thing something positive, not just for the Savannahs, but for the entire county, because it is and will maintain itself as a positive asset for the county. Samuel Gompers said over 100 years ago in a negotiation, Sam, they said, what do you want? And he said, I only want 3 things: more, more, more. Saying that that's not enough is wholly insufficient. What is enough? You may be working very hard, and I haven't been close enough to know that you've been doing that, but a lot of people said you have been. What it feels like, rather than supporting and enabling this coalesced group of people committed to work together and spend their capital, their time, and their energy to improve the county, instead of enabling that, it feels like you're putting stumbling blocks in front of us. So we come back with something that's a little bit better. No, that's not good enough. What is good enough? Throw the ball in your court. Answer the question. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Thank you very much.
Miss Dana Whitmore? I'm sorry, Daniel. You guys, yeah, it's your little pin mark there, and you are number 23, sir.
And the last one, I believe, right?
Yeah.
See, good news is coming. First, I apologize. My words are not going to be as eloquent as everyone else's. I've literally wrote mine on the back of your paper and borrowed ink pen. However, I wanted to make sure that a point of view that has not been discussed is coming up. I'll return the pen when I'm done. Mr. Tobias said he's not a golfer. I'm a little bit more of a golfer than you are. I've played 17 holes. My first hole, I hit 12, pick up the ball because everybody was getting mad. Second hole, I hit the beer cart. 17th hole, I had to stop. I ran out of golf balls. That's my golf experience. However, I am the dad of 5 kids, 3 of which with autism. They've played baseball, they've played softball, they've played soccer. The one thing that they've come to appreciate more is golf. It's a game where they're allowed to play themselves. It's a game where they're a little bit more freedom. If they're having a rough day, we don't go to the golf course. If they do have a great day, then it's a great reward. My son plays at Habitat. He's been playing now for about 6 months. Habitat allows us to play at a very low cost. It's sort of the kids who are signed up for Little League. We subsidize public parks. We subsidize other things. They're allowed to play golf, and it's something they enjoy a lot. The difference is what I heard. Someone said, I believe it was you, sir, that said, what's the difference of us running it through a partnership or a nonprofit? It's going to be a group of people who are pretty much dedicated to the golf. The people that are at the Habitat right now, we've tried a couple different courses just for fun to give them a little bit new experiences. The Habitat's a little bit different experience for us. They're accepted there. It's nice to see people of varying ages that are playing together. They're actually kind of amused at the 9-year-olds playing golf and the 11-year-olds, which I appreciate. At other golf courses, that doesn't happen. They're more annoyed that they're there and in their way. And while golf is dying at many courses, at the Habitat, it's used by a lot of high schoolers. It's used by a lot of private schoolers, and it's used by homeschoolers like us. If you're at the Habitat, I can't speak to the other courses, but if you're at the Habitat, you do see a lot of youth playing there. And that's something that's made available by the low cost. It's really all I had. 2.5 minutes early, so hopefully it'll show in my favor as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thought you were very eloquent, by the way.
Thank you.
We are out of comment cards, and I'm going to call a 10-minute break, and then we're going to come back. So I'll see you guys at 5 minutes after 4. Meeting to order again. Thank y'all for staying. We lost 2/3 of you, but y'all are hanging it out to the end. Miss Bossinger, if you'd come back up to the front for a few minutes. From listening to everybody's conversation, so I'm going to throw this out and then I'm going to give it to Mr. Tobias because he wants to ask you some questions too. And I think part of the struggle is when we're getting through y'all's information and the proposal you did is the $360 times 3. Would that be possible if we spread that out, okay, you get the money up front, but maybe if you start making profits, if there's a percentage that would be repaid over the CDD life of 25 years?
So
a negotiable possibility?
The association's negotiable, and that's one of the things we would like from you all today. Give us some feedback so we can actually enter into this agreement, because I don't want to waste any more county staff time. I mean, we've spent a lot of time coming up with this simplified solution for you all, where we're negotiating with Savannah's partners on the outside so that we don't have to complicate this further with you all. I know that the association is amenable to having the 15-year loan, that as soon as we are making a profit, that we can pay that back faster. We're also amenable, which may help Commissioner Tobias' request, that during that loan repayment period, if it is the full 15 years, that we would maintain it as a public golf course during that period.
Okay.
So I know that's something that you are concerned about, but that's something that we can absolutely do to make the commission more comfortable. As far as the $320,000 payments and paying back the profits, I'd have to talk to the association to see if that's something that
Maybe
they could
it just
do.
could be negotiable, not out of revenues, because I understand you have to have some income. But if if it does very well, then maybe that would be a possibility, and it's a win-win everywhere.
Okay.
And that would solve a lot of the issues of what I'm hearing about the money up front. Whereas I'm not as I don't have as much heartburn over that, because I know we're going to lose money if we hold on to this like it is right now, anyways. But I hear that, and if that's a negotiation item, that might be something that could really help.
Okay.
And another thing, I was thinking if maybe the golf course was sold in 5 years or less for a huge profit, then the county would be able to get back some of those funds also. So just some ideas.
Sure. And in theory, I don't see an issue with that, because obviously the association will be happy to have its grips on this golf course, so they probably don't have any intention of selling it.
I didn't hear that in there, but I just thought from a few conversations that were coming up from my fellow commissioners that are pretty smart, I thought it'd be something to ask. Commissioner Tobias.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think inadvertently one of the first speakers mentioned the low amount of dues they pay and equaling the quality of attorney. And I just want to say that was, I'm sure, misspoken. I think you've done an absolute fabulous job, and I don't think most of us understand what you've been put through, that you have a relationship with the 200 and some homeowners, but you're also juggling the Savannah's partners, and then you're juggling 5 folks up here who can't get together and talk. So I think, while our county manager and our budget and our attorneys are in a tough position, I think you're in an equally difficult one. And listen, I had a closed mind here, and Mr. Shea and you have come together quite a bit. I do have a question for you, and I think you've done very well, by the way, that I think when you talked about litigation, I think I was the one that threw that carrot out there. So if we were to revert back, I imagine it would be your intent to have some sort of injunction until that decision was made. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
And in your legal opinion, how long, I know this is probably not who would win, but how long do you think that would take in order to run its way through the course until we had a definitive, and I'm not asking what you think that definitive answer is, but how long do you think?
The legal system is a very slow-moving train. As attorneys, and as your county attorney will tell you, and I can't give you legal advice, but your county attorney can, these cases I would anticipate would take at least 24 months for this case. I also have no control over the 287 homeowners that may bring their own actions against the county because of the fact that they're a third-party beneficiary of this agreement when they purchase the property and to the level of maintenance. I don't know where that's going to go. I'm not prepared to speak about that, but I know that would be out there, and that would be a concern if the county was my client, because it's not just a lawsuit from the HOA. And again, I'm not here to try to threaten that. I just think we need to be practical and realistic as to where this outcome could go, which is why I think an amicable solution where we're executing a hold harmless is in the county's best interest. But again, I can't provide legal advice. But with those other lawsuits, that may tie you up, for a decade.
Okay.
I have no idea.
There's some answers that just are impossible.
Sure.
Otherwise, play the lottery. And I understand you have, you're working under the guidelines of folks on fixed incomes and that have gone out of their way to say that they're willing to pay extra.
Right.
And I think there's a way, and I'm not speaking by the board, I'm just, this is what I was doing, playing on my phone, running through mortgage calculations and speaking with my attorney. Okay. If we were to get some sort of insurance, and you said 24 months, I mean, if we were more conservative and said it would be 30 months, you said...
For a lawsuit?
For the lawsuit.
Yeah.
You said it's you losing, I believe you mentioned about $15,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I came up, here's, and I understand that you have to go back to your board and we have to discuss this, but, you know, someone said, give us options. Here's one that I came up with. So I'd like to hear from, you know, staff. I just wanted to hear your opinion on to see if my 30 months was out of the ordinary. But at 30 months, assuming you got that injunction, and, you know, again, it could go either way, but assume you got it, that's $450,000.
Right.
So that's a cost. Even if we were to dump it or to divert, we would incur that if the injunction was gone through. So here's what I'd like to throw out to the board. If we were to go with $450,000 instead of $960, but wait, there is a delta of 510. That's the difference between the 450 and the 960. And that delta, we added to the line of credit. And wait, I know. Wait for it. I'm like a, you know, one of these television salespeople. There's more. I believe you said 15 years you were looking at. Okay, so this is where I had to get into the mortgage calculator. 15 years at 2.75 at the 1.2 million would yield a payment of about $8,143 per month. If we were to increase that to the $1.71 million, that's the delta between the 960 and the 450, and extend that for the full term of the CDD,
The 25 years.
the 25 years, okay, that would actually lower your payments to about $78.88 a month, or about $1 per household, just slightly under $1 per household. And you could, I don't know, we could pay the $320 and $130. I mean, that would be up for the board, but I'm trying to be fair, looking at the costs that we would incur. You know, I guess this doesn't help you out, but it helps the people that you work for. They don't want to go through attorney's fees over and over and over again. So whether that would go to maintenance, I mean, it would not matter, but the numbers would stay the same. We would be just shifting. If we're going to have to incur the cost, I would rather, you know, incur the cost that would help the homeowners than what it would be to, you know, go through the legal process. So that's, you know, I'd be glad to explain, you know, anything, because I was just jotting notes over here, but I think that gets us pretty close. And again, I was ready to revert completely, utterly, and totally, you know, just a couple days ago. So I appreciate your time. I just wanted to throw that out to the board and see if any of it's
So the only thing that's not part of your equation, that the $450,000 that the county would have to pay the $15,000 bleeding per month that we're looking at right now for the 30 months. If you lose in court and the judge says you do have to do the deferred maintenance, now the county spent the $450 plus whatever the estimate the court comes up with for that deferred maintenance, and those figures from the National Golf Foundation are $834,000, and the agreement between the county and the association says that the National Golf Foundation is the entity that determines the level of maintenance. So we're now putting the county in the position where you may end up having to pay more. And I'm sure talking to Attorney Knox, he may say, well, you know, we'll see, it's court, who wins, who loses, but that would be the viewpoint that we would take. So it's a much riskier position for the county now to take versus the plan we've already proposed, where it doesn't matter who would win or lose. County's out of it immediately. You don't have to worry about it. If there's hurricanes in September, the association has the burden.
Thank you. But I'm just told that you potentially would have to post a bond for the injunction amount.
Sure.
And we potentially, what my attorney is telling me, we potentially would win. If we won, then we would be able to get that $450,000 back and wouldn't have to pay that $800,000.
I don't think there's anything in the agreement that would allow the county to get that amount back for the $15,000 in deficit maintenance that the county would pay while the judge determined that he's not going to make a ruling and put an injunction on the transfer of the golf course reverting to the association. And again, that's my legal opinion, which of course is going to be adverse to your county attorney's legal opinion, but that's how it goes. That's how us attorneys roll. I mean, how many attorneys does it take to put in a new light bulb? I mean, we all have different opinions.
And I greatly appreciate that. This is a heck of a lot closer. You know, you put out your first offer. I mean, you'd be crazy to accept the first offer of a car dealer offering you. And I appreciate it, and I understand that you've probably come in good faith. But I think that this is you know, and I have no idea where anyone else is on that. But I mean, I'd like to, you know, hear, you know, what some of my other folks. But I appreciate the counter there. It's certainly very informative.
Commissioner Isnardi?
Well, I'll revert back to my original question, and I think we talked about this just for a moment, and you actually asked the question, or maybe you brought it up without the question being asked. But my concern is, you know, you get the course up to date, and the homeowners association says, we're just going to sell it right off the bat. Now, you have up to 15 years to keep it, but if the argument is that you've got this public asset and that the county is responsible, and rather than us revert back to the HOA, or what guarantee do we have as a county after the county's giving you, whether it be, you know, 320, whether it be 450 or somewhere in the middle, you know, below the 960, what guarantee do we have, or do you believe the HOA would be open to the idea of at least, you know, making every best effort to keep it open as a public golf course, or not selling it, say, for 10 years? Because if you paid off that loan in 3 years, then you could just up and sell it. And we know what happens when management companies take over. So
Sure.
That's my concern.
I think the association would absolutely be open to not selling it within a certain period of time, with the condition that if golf courses are failing, if it starts to fail, and that is their last route before they're filing bankruptcy, then I think we should be able to have an out. So that's not the circumstance you're describing where it's so profitable they want to sell it to get rid of it and make a profit on that land. This would be some sort of contingency, which I think we could draft with the county attorney, that basically said if it was such dire straits, golf has really, you know, been on the decline, there's not enough rounds played to even sustain it, we're really just throwing money after bad here, and it makes sense for the association to get out of it. I think they'll need that contingency. I think that's only fair, just because, I mean, you all are trying to get rid of it, so, you know, putting it on us and forcing us to keep it into perpetuity as a golf course, it's a difficult condition that I just
forever,
right,
course,
okay, but I think for a
obviously,
period of time, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because it would be sad to say this is an asset that the public wants, and, you know, nobody in the HOA, maybe 10 or 20% actually play on the course, to say it's a public course and then go ahead and sell it. And then if, heaven forbid, something happens, because I've seen them fail in PUDs before. Yeah. And it's a shame when that happens, but I would like that protection in there. And also, as well as if say it's 10 years, or that would probably be the minimum I'd be okay with. You know, obviously the county would be reimbursed for all monies, even if you're selling it because it's failing. Okay. I want to make sure the county gets its monies back, you know, if possible. But I mean, again, I want to work with you guys. I from the beginning, that is the case. But I think that we have to work toward making it fair and equitable.
So if to the letter of intent, if it was added that the association would be willing to have it be a public golf course for at least the next 10 years, unless some dire straits occur and they have to sell it because they're on the verge of bankruptcy, is that something that you would be more comfortable with, this letter of intent, or are there other issues that we need to work through?
Well, that, and obviously if you're selling because it's failing, I want to be sure that the county's the first paid before the the homeowners association's paid back. I want to make sure the county gets whatever monies it can recover. Obviously, you're going to get something if you sell it. We don't want the golf course back.
Right, I know you don't. And
once
that's
we
what-
give it to you, because obviously we have no business running golf courses on our own without the help of something, because
Right.
we're not very good at maintaining them. So.
And that's the point of the surety bond too over the golf course property. That takes the county away from it ever reverting back to the county. It's basically, if we default on the loan, the surety company goes in and sells off that piece of property. The county gets paid first, and we're left with new neighbors. Who knows what's going to happen with that property at that point.
Okay. Then maybe perhaps, if I didn't see anybody's lights go on when Commissioner Tobias talked about the 450, maybe somewhere in the middle between that number. I mean, this golf course is nowhere near my district, so I will defer to the other commissioner in this district, at least having a little more say over than I would, because it's his area. But, I would be okay with that if there was somewhere in the middle, and obviously if we were protected.
Okay.
But I think, again, and I hate to sound like a broken record, we should never have done this to begin with, but, hindsight's 20/20, and I was too young to even come and attend a meeting. So I'll just say, let's try to fix a problem, and let's hope that this homeowners association can bring it up to the beauty that it once was.
Right. Do you all have a figure that you're more comfortable with? I'm trying to resolve this.
An idea, since Commissioner Tobias threw that out with a potential of county losing $450,000, which left the delta 510, and I know you got an agreement from the homeowners to be able to do a 1.2
Right.
line of credit. What if, we worked an agreement for the other 510, if it becomes profitable, that there's a percentage that would start trying to come back to the county to make that up. Maybe that'd be something that would be negotiable. I think that might be minimal to getting it done, and then it's almost like making that the compromise there with the 960,000. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas
Sure.
of trying to get us 3 votes here to move forward. So
Right.
just a thought and an idea. Commissioner Barfield, your light's on.
I love to negotiate, but we've got a number of different options coming up here, and I think it might be best to let them go back and come back and present us some options and reductions or how we could do this differently. And I would say come back to our next meeting
Regular meeting, sure.
on the 20th.
Sure. Okay.
That'd be good.
I think we're almost there. Commissioner Zardi, I'm going to bring you in, but let me ask Commissioner Smith if he's got something real quick. Sir?
Well, I agree with Mr. Barfield, and that's what I was alluding to at the beginning. I think that this has been very illuminating and helpful for me, and I think for everyone involved. But that also raises a lot of questions and thoughts and maybe potential solutions on all of our parts. So if we can come back to the table after we've had a chance to talk to staff and question some of these folks on our own, I think we'd all be better off, and we can probably come to an agreement.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Isnardi?
I was so intent in listening because I didn't want to miss anything. I almost forgot what I was going to ask. But I would just ask, and I don't know if we're going to move on to the other courses at this point, but I would just ask that, as a board, we work together to make sure that we're trying. It's easy, and I'm not saying this happens deliberately, but it's easy, and I'm guilty of it myself. It's easy for us to quickly forget about the other districts and the other people that live in different districts that benefit from these courses. But I would ask that, if there's compromise from my district, that there be compromise from others, because I would never have chosen this route to be in the golf business at all, but if there's a solution to kind of get us out of the management of these courses, I'd prefer it. And I think that the private-public partnership could be a good thing, and I was against it from the beginning. I really was. I gave him a really hard time, Mr. Becker and his people, and he brought in the cavalry and worked with my office, and I think that there's compromise always, and they just want to have the courses. There's no benefit to them, there's no salary for them. All they have is time and a love for golf, and I hear my constituents golf at these courses. They may not be in my district, but they golf there, because this is the most crowded I've seen the room on one issue since I started here. So that tells me something. Not one person came up to this podium and said, I don't want any golf courses. You might get an email or two, but that's how much it means to the people in the community. So we have to listen, whether we like it or not, whether we agree 100% or not. And I just think that's important moving forward.
Thank you. So I think to pull this together a little, what I'm hearing is that we're hoping you guys come up with a couple options for us to choose at our next county commission meeting, and maybe get with staff and make sure we have those ideas. And maybe we can get a little ahead of time so we got a little time to be ready for it. And you know what's good about this is, you know, the book Count to 10 to Win. I don't know if you ever heard of it, by Robert Schuller. But you throw out your 10 good thoughts and see which ones stick. And I think we've got some ideas here, and I think we're going to end up getting through this next meeting and have something that's going to work out, because I'm hearing everybody wanting to work very hard together with this, which is a good thing. So I think we just might get through the golf course issue here in 2018, and that's a very exciting thought. So thank you for all of your time. Commissioner Isner, are you trying to put your button on again?
Well,
Go ahead, ma'am.
I didn't want to interrupt anybody, and I didn't know if we were finished here, because I wanted to see if anybody had questions for Mr. Becker, because as much as he tried to eloquently explain everything, I'm sure there's things that were missed, and there was discussions that we had at least about, you know, accountabilities and transparency, and, you know, the county having at least enough control that if it's not going the way we want, then there's other options. But part of the reason why as well that I was willing to be open-minded with these courses that aren't in my district was because these courses aren't courses you could just put up for sale. I mean, there's one that we have property issues with, and the other one is definitely, I don't think anybody would argue that Spessor Holland, everyone plays on Spessor Holland. I mean, it's just a very beautiful, successful course by the beach. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And I know that Aquarina definitely has a vested personal interest in ripping down Spessor Holland, but while I don't like government competing, this is sort of getting us out of it. This is turning it over to a nonprofit that has nothing to gain except, again, like a beautiful course. So I will defer to commission if you have questions, concerns, because I want this to work as well. If we're gonna battle through it and argue it out and try to find a way to make Savannah's work, I think we owe it to this nonprofit that's spent many hours with my staff, Vic and myself, and put their whole heart and soul into it. And I won't, you know, because I'm not sure what the plan is, again, for management, and I don't know if that's public information yet, and it's not a secret, but at the same time, I was very impressed with who they brought to the meeting, who manages a very successful course locally here, and I'm very excited because that gives me a glimmer of hope, too, that they're just going to get better.
Okay. I think we do need to give some direction here for Golf Brevard and where we're wanting them to go, because we just clearly gave Savannah some ideas, and I think that's going to work. So if you guys want to weigh in, I'm not ready for a decision today. And in all fairness, I've been working kind of hard on the Savannah's issue. I've gotten a lot of good information, and a lot of good questions were asked today, so I do appreciate even the hard questions. And they kind of stirred up my thinking. Again, my two options are going to be for those two courses that we sell them and get out of them, or that your proposal will work somehow, and at the end of it, we're out of them. I do want government out of the golf course business. I do have heartburn over us competing with the public sector. In all fairness, I got to tell you that. And I'm not willing to just throw everybody under the bus in doing so. So I'm willing to keep an open mind and work with these golf courses also. And Commissioner Tobias, sir.
Thank you. And there's always this talk of not in the district, but your principles should work no matter what district anything is in, no matter what project anything is. If you think that, you know, private enterprise should not be in competition with the public sector, it doesn't matter where the golf courses are in. I've got 2 of these golf courses are in the district. It's not my district, just the district in which I represent. If I lose my next election, I stood on my principles, and I'm glad to lose. I think we should direct staff. I think the work, the effort, the time that went in to the Savannah's project is very evident. I think it's just as evident that that did not go into the Golf Brevard model. Anytime that someone comes up and asks us for a loan and talks about collateral but doesn't offer any, that doesn't have an interest rate or a term, remember, I mean, you saw the timeline. They've had 60 days from the last time and 30 before that. And the hours that the staff has put on to do this stuff, You know, I want to make a motion for the additional option manage to disposition, but I don't think it'll pass, even though, as it was pointed out apropos, that we should maybe defer to the people whose district, you know, it's in. It's fine, but I think we need to. We spent a lot of time in here. The folks that have shown up, and I appreciate everyone showing up. If you're, you know, concerned with those 2 golf courses, and I think you should be just as disappointed as I am. Understand your proposal, the one that we saw, was asking us for a loan, and this just changed a day ago. I mean, it's been 60 days. If that's the type of management that we expect to get out of these courses, and I think it's pretty foreboding, and it's unfortunate again because the Savannah's, which is not in my district, okay, or the district I represent, was so good, and we're clearly not there. So I think we need to direct staff, because clearly Golf Brevard is using Brevard County staff anyway, to come up with some, I don't know, concrete numbers that we can actually put together, and I think that we need to probably have it by the 20th, where we can decide, because there's more questions here than I have more questions than I had before, just because the numbers aren't there. We can talk about numbers with Savannah. We can disagree, but they're all there. The numbers just aren't there. So Golf Brevard has had the opportunity for that. They haven't delivered. So I think we need to direct staff. I think I'd like to ask if we could direct staff to give us something. I know they don't have something like a CDD that could work it out, but at least give us a contract that meets the goals that that we've laid out, and gives us some concrete numbers where we can say, thumbs up, we want to do this, or thumbs down, we don't. But I don't know that we're any closer. And I don't think it's the work of the board. I think it's Golf Brevard that, you know, that just provided us, when it comes to financial, 60 days, a third of a page is what we got for the financials. And that's our job. It's very difficult up here. You understand that to spend this money, we've got to ask hard-working people to pay taxes, right? So I can't look at people, the people that I ask for their taxes, a straight face saying, yeah, I'm offering 0% non-collateralized loans. It's wonderful if you did it as in a bank. I don't know that the bank would survive all that long, but I certainly wouldn't want it done with my money, and there's no way in heck I'm doing it with 110,000 people's money. It's just not fair. So I would like to, I don't know if I'll get a second here, but I would like to direct staff to provide some sort of contract that is, I don't know, reasonable, and that we can get some numbers that we all can decide whether are thumbs up or are thumbs down, and do it in pretty rapid succession, because I guess the Savannah's, I guess, on the 20th. So I'd like to potentially do it at the same time, because I think they set the bar pretty darn high. So I think it's always darn good to have, you know, an A student, you know, the C- student follow around the A student.
Do we need a motion on that, sir? Or are we able to just direct the county manager to work with Golf Brevard and the staff to get us some numbers for some type of contract like we did with Savannah's that would be equitable to the county?
I think the county manager would probably like a motion to direct him to do that.
He would like a motion
county
to do
attorney's
that?
office,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
What numbers?
I think numbers. You know, I think we've understood what the board is looking for, and we'll go back and
Motion to have you guys go and work the numbers.
and we'll try to look at that. We'll try to get
Okay.
some firm numbers from Golf Brevard so we can work out something.
Okay, is that your motion, Mr. Tabaya?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second?
Have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, we have some direction on that. Commissioner Isnardi.
And I just want to say, and I mean, I know Commissioner Tabaya didn't tell this to me, but the Golf Brevard people said they were heading to your office next. So if you saw that they didn't have a percentage in there, or they talked about the loan money they wanted, you could have easily asked them, you know, if they would be willing to pay for an interest rate. I mean, it's fun to attack them in public, but at the same time, I know they've put the effort in my office. I'm not sure, maybe my office was more receptive or more willing. I'm not sure, but this posturing is a little silly, I think, and it's not productive. I think that they are making the effort. I think it's difficult for them to produce collateral because they're not a PUD on a golf course. And like I said, there's nothing in it to gain for them other than a lot of time and a lot of effort and to improve the courses. As far as competition with the private sector, I don't like it either. But, you know, you admitted, Aquarena resident admitted that it's the same cost exactly as Spessard. So again, we didn't put those golf courses there. I mean, we can take them away and give it to the private sector, and maybe maybe Aquarena will even increase their prices more because they'll be the only show in town. But these golf courses exist, and we have to make decisions. So we're either going to allow them to stay in place but if our goal is to ultimately rid ourselves of them, this is how we do it, and this is how we do it responsibly. And this is how we do it, taking care of our residents without wiping them out from underneath them and without just kicking them to the wind to some company that will just run them into the ground. We've already been there. The county's already allowed that to happen over the years, and I don't want to see that happen again.
Thank you. I think we have some opportunities here for some wins. I'm hoping we come back and get this all done in a little while. And by the hearing us up here now, we're all a little tired. So we're at the end here. So I'm going to move forward now into other business. And I think County Manager, you had some other business for us. You wanted us to, the River Lagoon. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. What I have for you is hopefully you all received the email where we spoke about the Florida Department of Emergency Management and some rumblings and that's going on relative to FEMA reimbursement relating to shelters. And so we said we were going to come back to the board and give you a letter. We have that letter in a draft form, so we're seeking the board's approval to send this letter to Governor Scott and our federal and state delegations to so we can address the issue, because it would have potential for significant impact to the board if what is being laid out there comes to fruition, and we might be in a position to have to reimburse the school board for costs related to sheltering, and then apply to get that reimbursement back from the federal government and through the state. And as you all know, that process takes an indeterminable amount of years. So
Are you on a motion on this, sir?
yeah, we're looking for the board's review, and we have to do it quickly. And I'm sorry for the very short notice. But I just became aware of it very recently. It only was, I think, last 48 hours or so, maybe 72 hours, that we received that email from this about the county attorney's review of this situation, and I think that the state gave an extension until the end of the week before you have to have comments in. So we want to get this letter out as quickly as possible. I don't know, Kimberly, if you have anything to add.
I think you pretty much covered it. Our concern is not only the $1.75 million that we would be responsible for immediately, the county would, but then the school board also would then be possibly more vulnerable to de-obligation for all the funds they've spent on sheltering in previous years from 2004 to 2016, which would be a financial impact to the school district. And at some point, that could come back around in a big circle.
Thank you. Can I entertain a motion to approve the letter?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move into board reports. County Manager, do you have any reports, sir?
No, that was my report.
That
Thank
was your
you.
report. Mr. Knox?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barfield?
No report.
Commissioner Tabaya?
No report.
Commissioner Smith?
No report. Everybody have a nice rest of their day.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Isnardi?
No report.
And I also have no report, and this meeting is adjourned. Oh, what? Oh, we have an executive session right after this, don't we? Do I call this meeting closed and we reopen it there, or we suspend it? I have to read this thing on the bottom? Okay. In accordance with the, I have to read all this? I shouldn't do that on mine.
Open the meeting here, and then you close it down here when you're done. That's how we used to do it.
Okay, County Commission, we're now going to go into an executive session upstairs. Thank you.
Just
With
to
staff.
move to adjourn and to go into the attorney-client private session upstairs, at which I will be asking for guidance on the Brevard County versus Garrett case, and all the persons sitting on this board will be in attendance. That would be Mr. Abate, Commissioner Isnardi, Commissioner Smith will not be here.
Pritchett, Barfield,
Commissioner
and Tobiah.
Pritchett, Barfield, Tobiah,
Margaret.
Scott Knox, Eden Bentley, and Matt Sauce,
And Margaret.
attorneys, and Margaret Sheffield, the reporter.
Wonderful. Everything Mr. Knox just said, and we'll meet you upstairs.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.